Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 59 of I Got Gameplay. Okay, that's enough of that. Now,
okay.
I'm your host, Michael Burhan, with some awesome people, and we're not as sure as we usually are, but we were getting kind of worried today because of the fact everyone was turning up late. Tardiness. Now, we've got with us here today, of course, a gentleman who hasn't been on the show very frequently because he's been busy at work, but managed to find some time for our Silent Hill episode. He is the one, only, the man with cat, Mr. Nick Enderly. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
Hello. What are you up to?
Not much.
I can imagine. Probably something awesome. And also, we have a Jedi in training, actually the master of all Jedis, a man who just received his I Got Gameplay t-shirt today, so it's official. He's officially married to the show, because once you get the t-shirt, that's it. Now, all he's waiting for is the show to cheat on another show, and that's it. Well, he is, of course, Mr. Excellent Podcast himself, Xander Skullion.
Hey, everyone. How's it hanging?
That's all good.
Nothing much.
I heard
not so much, bro.
You got ED?
I went to a thrift store and I found ET in the box and manual for like $2.
Oh wow! Sweet.
You know, I actually don't mind that game that much.
You really don't?
That game is nowhere near the worst fucking game I made.
Okay. So, as per you, Zach, what is the worst fucking game ever made?
Well, you know, I don't know if I'm qualified to say what the worst game ever made is. I mean, I played a lot of shitty games, but let me say something about E.T. When I first played that game, which was pretty recent because I missed that game back when I had an Atari, which was probably a blessing, but I played it probably a year and a half ago for the first time, and it pissed me off like to no end. I was like, what the fuck, why is this game such a piece of shit? But then I went online and I watched a video that explained exactly what, like, didn't explain how to beat the game, but they explained how the game worked, and it's not nearly one of the worst.
Okay. All right, that's fine by that. So, Xander, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the thrift store I went to. It was funny because I was walking around and I found this thrift store right by my house, and pretty much this thrift store was owned by a collector. And his wife was like, he had too much stuff and he needs to sell some of it. So this place was full of like old toys still in the box. It was full of like comic books, video games, and a bunch of other like random antique stuff. But I ended up also getting a 1989 Batman toy still in the box. I spent like $5 for it. I'm like, it was funny because that's how much I spent when I was a kid, and I now have it again. It's kind of funny.
I remember
I'm going to go back there, definitely.
I literally would love that, because I had one when I was a kid. I don't know what happened to it. I think I bit its head off. That's what happened when you give a fucking Batman toy. So yeah, apart from Big Crystal, of course, we have the man who's bestowed rose-coloured reviews himself, a gentleman who's managed to film a ton of expressive shots of himself. He is none other than Mr. Travis Goss. Hey, Travis, what are you up to? Travis?
Not too much. I'm here.
What you been up to? You been doing anything fun and rose-coloured reviewing?
Yeah, not too much. Getting stuff worked out, because what I'm doing right now is I'm putting some of my videos up on Daily Motion, so my earlier videos when I first started out. That's a bit of a work in progress. Then once that's all done, I'm going to start recording more episodes of Skull Monkeys. And I'm going to work on Yoshi's Island next.
Ah, awesome. So you're going to make Sean Walker jealous then? This is Sean Hennessy himself.
Yeah. Yes, I am. And here's the thing. Sean's always been teasing me. He's like, no, it's not Zelda. No, it's not Zelda. It's like, I don't give a fuck if it's Zelda or not, man. I'll cover Zelda whenever I want to. I'm not going to do that right now.
Someone's getting pissed off. I could just see you at Daddy's house punch him in the face. That's Zelda! That's not Zelda! That's not Zelda!
If that's not Zelda, now what?
Man kills another man, scream, that's not Zelda. We also, speaking of not being Zelda, we have the man who looks like a woman in his profile picture at the moment. He is none other than one half of Getting Your Nerd On, Zack Latour. How's it going, Zack?
How do I look like a woman? What is my profile picture?
You're Kyla with a kitten.
What?
You,
on Skype. I thought you meant on Facebook. Oh, yeah.
No, on Facebook. You could pass as a woman in Mother Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I will one day. Haven't been much, just chilling, hanging out, drinking some beers.
That's the way that you need to be. That's a good day when you're just hanging out drinking beers.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, today's premise of today's show, guys, of course, is none other than Silent Hill. But before that, let's get on to the I Got Gameplay news section. So, Mr. Xander Skullion, what's in the news this week?
Oh, God. Oh, man, I was hoping you wouldn't put me on the spot. Because this news segment that I'm talking about, it's, I've been talking about this all day online, but, apparently Nintendo is going through some, changes. They want to do some price cuts on, I believe it's some software price cuts. Because they're just wanting to make more money. And of course, because of that, everyone's, going crazy and saying Nintendo's going to be the next Sega and the next Atari, and it's Nintendoom. Nintendoom's the theme for the day that I've had all day. But I mean, I don't know, Nintendo has enough money that they can, pretty much make Mario dildos and not make a cent for the next 30 years.
Dude, they'll make a lot of money.
Yeah. Woohoo!
They could make Zelda dildos as well. That'd be hilarious.
It gives a whole new meaning to strive for.
You can imagine when she climaxed here. Exactly. Wow.
Oh, man.
We're starting off strong tonight.
But no, Nintendo's got enough money with savings and bonds that, for the next 30 years, they could make failure after failure and not lose any money. But I think a lot of it kind of goes in what we were talking about, I believe last week, when we were talking about how stock was going towards, with Nintendo with China.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to do a little bit more mobile. I mean, and of course, with going to China, it's a big industry, is mobile gaming in China. So I mean, I think that's a little bit what they're hinting towards. But the Wii U isn't really doing as bad as some of the clickbait, the news bait that some people are trying to put out. They'll put a misleading article and you'll click on it just for hits on their website. Oh, Nintendo's going bankrupt. And that's not really the case. Right now, the Wii U is still outselling the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, I think. It's a silly little situation that they've basically, people are they're kind of signifying Nintendo's doom without actually taking a step back and saying, hey, what's going on? And if people actually look at Sony's announcement with the Gaikai situation, they'll probably be more positioned to go into distancing themselves from consoles than Nintendo would. Nintendo know that their consoles can mainly sell on first party. I know there's loads of guys, Angry Joe, I'm going to name you as one of them, who keeps saying that Nintendo needs third party, they need third party, they need third party. No, they really don't. They just need good games. And I think the problem with Nintendo in this situation was it was a slow start, and two, the company is very, very stubborn. I believe it was the head of Bethesda who was talking about this quite recently. I've actually touched on this in a video, and I'm touching on this right here as well. That he's basically stated that with Nintendo, if you talk to like Sony and Microsoft, they're like, what can we do to help you? Now, Nintendo's Japanese side would tend to be going, look, we've made a console, do games for it. And he goes, that kind of rubbed him the wrong way because they didn't ask what could to help. They've just said, well, this is what we've done. We're Nintendo. We know what we're doing. We've done this for so many years. And they've kind of got that old school stubbornness without actually extending their hand and saying, hey, you know, what can we do to assist you to help you make games for this platform? And because of that, it's kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths. It doesn't mean that people won't make games for them, but they've said there's a few things that they want to see in order for them to make those games. I know, like, the Ubisoft was saying that they wanted more online platforms because without developing online platforms, these games aren't selling because everyone's comfortable with using online. And because Nintendo are kind of slow at doing that, you know, it doesn't help them like the foggiest. But consoles are selling very strongly. The console is now making a profit in opposed to the PS4 and Xbox One because Nintendo basically released it a year prior, which was a great idea. They're releasing more of the games that people want now, the Zelda games, the Mario games, the Smash Bros. Games, the Mario Kart games, and it's got to pick up. People just got to stop screaming doomsday every time something's going on. Oh, it's going to be the next Sega. Newsflash, Sega America went and hoarded the system out. Sega Japan wanted to basically release consoles consecutively, but they went, oh, we've got a new idea, let's stop that console and do this one. And Atari kind of shot themselves in the foot with a bloody stinky shit console that no one knew how to develop for. This is not Nintendo, people. Calm the fuck down. Anybody else got any views on this? And by the way, just before we go into that, I just want to introduce another one of our guests here. He's running around today, but he's also the host of the Untitled Movie Show, where we had an awesome discussion on Man of Steel, and the second sexiest man, actually no, the third sexiest man on radio because Xander's here, Miguel Leon. Hi, Miguel.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
I'm actually not good. I would have been here a lot earlier, but I've been suffering for some slight food poisoning, and literally as I got home from my parents' house, I was just about to get on Skype to meet you guys up at the beginning of the show, and then I'll let you guys use your imaginations from there. So if there are any periods during this radio show where you don't hear from me or I just disappear, you'll know why. Nothing? Okay, all right. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Can I say something about the Nintendo thing? Because I'm assuming, I didn't hear the beginning of this, but I'm assuming that's what we're talking about, is the whole failure that Nintendo's talking about.
Well, it's the failure of Doom that people keep like talking about, basically. You know, at the moment, one article's coming out from Time.com, which is where this originated from, and people are like, no, Nintendo's gonna die! They're gonna die now! Oh my god!
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. What was it that spurned this whole doomsday thing that they talked about? Like, okay. What specifically did? Do
you know Iwata, the current head of Nintendo, Mr. Now, I'm sorry for my Japanese, ain't that great. Is it Satoru Iwata? There you go, Satoru Iwata. I knew I'd say it in the end. Basically stated that the Nintendo Wii U isn't performing the way that Nintendo hoped. Now again, people, Nintendo hoped, okay? And particularly now, everyone's like signifying doom for the console, and that'll be the next Dreamcast, and when Nintendo going to stop developing because they're going to cry on their pillow. So what's
Alright, let me just start off by saying I remember this exact attitude when the PS3 first came out. This is the exact thing that went on. So it doesn't annoy me. It's the Internet. The Internet is made of two things, and that's porn and hyperbole. So I just kind of take it in stride. Having said that, I figured this was going to be the case when I saw the rise of the Wii. And what I mean is that when I first saw the Wii come out and I saw how fast, how successful it was for how fast it got to that point, I knew there was going to be another shoe falling. I looked at it and I'm like, too many people are buying this console. Not enough hits are going to be coming out for it. There's going to be a down period. There's going to be a down slope with Nintendo, and the Wii U is that down slope. There was no way that the Wii U, in my opinion, was going to live to the Wii. There was just no way that was going to be the case. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing now, and that's the whole point of the whole hopefulness. Every console that comes out hopes to do better than the other one, or at least stay plateaued. You know, with the Xbox to the 360, it was a steady rise up. The PS1 to the PS2, a steady rise. When it got to the PS3, it was a bit of a downslope, but they slowly but surely built themselves back up. But it was a very slow ebb and flow. With the Wii U, I wouldn't say it's a sharp, drastic fall, but I had the feeling that this was going to be the case. I knew that the Wii U was not going to be able to pick up the slack that the Wii did, just because the Wii was just massive. I mean, it took over that console generation more so than the 360 did. Having said that, I don't see Doom. I think what this is, I think the best way to describe the success of the Wii U, is humbling. I think that's what happened. I think it's humbled Nintendo a little bit. I think it's brought them back down to an even platform. And I think now with the next console, hopefully we'll see them slowly but surely regain some success again and slowly build themselves up again to a stature that they'd be more happy with. I don't see this being a doom and gloom situation, because people compare it to Sega and the Dream and all that other stuff. You got to remember that was multiple failures in a very short amount of time. I mean, you look at it from the end of the Genesis era to the end of the Dreamcast era, that was just flop after flop after flop after flop. In the case of Atari, they couldn't survive the fall of the gaming industry. It just they couldn't. They were too embezzled into that incident that there was no way they're going to be able to bring them up. Nintendo just had a bad console generation. Every console is allowed to have one not so good generation, and I think what we're really seeing whether or not Nintendo has what it takes to bring themselves up is with their next console, whatever that may be.
You know what I think the problem is, though? I think it's because the Wii kind of made them complacent as well. They basically sat there and went, we don't have to pursue, we can just do our own thing. And that's kind of where they went wrong in this. But in the end of the day, the generation's not over and done with yet. It's just started.
and what's funny is, going back to the PS3, that's exactly the flack that Sony took when they got into the PS3. They were riding on the success of a previous platform, and they realized the hard way that you can't do that. You have to always innovate. You have to always move forward. And I think they made leaps and bounds to the point where now the PS4 is ushering in kind of this new gaming angle with their Gaikai service that I really got to give them credit. They proved you can pull yourself out of that, and hopefully Nintendo will follow suit. They won't be as stubborn as some people say, and they'll be able to slowly rebuild themselves up the right way with this next console, whatever it may be. I mean, we don't even know what this new console is going to be about.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, most people don't even know the Xbox One and the PS4 have not even got enough games to support the console yet. They've got, literally, these consoles aren't going to have any more releases until the middle of the year. It's not, it boggles the mind when people sit there and like, oh, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. The Wii U has a shitload more titles that actually are emitted in TT than most PS4 and Xbox One titles combined at the moment. I'm not saying they ain't going to get better. They will do. But Sony has basically played it smart and said, well, you know what? We don't need consoles. We don't need games being released physically, because we're going to go with this Gaikai thing, which is great for them. But to me, that signifies them walking away from the console market eventually. Because soon Gaikai serve is going to be what they have. It's going to be their main thing. I can see it now. And truthfully, by the way that they've done that, that could signify that Sony's going to jump out the console race. Nintendo have not signified they're jumping out. They just said, we got to go back to basics and start releasing mobile games like we did with the Game & Watch. You know, it's
I don't see Sony getting out of the console business anytime soon.
Not soon,
I think
but
this,
eventually. I don't think you'll see a PS5. Or if you do, it's going to be something similar vein to the Vita home unit that they have. It's going to be more.
I can agree to that, but I think there's going to be more. I think this Gaikai service is going to cater more to the nostalgic vibe. I think you're going to see a lot more older games put onto here than a lot of the newer ones, and I think that's a great edge for Sony because, you know, as we've said before, nostalgia is in. People like to play those old style PS1 and PS2 consoles, and now you've got an ability for people to be able to play that, you know, through your own pipeline. I think that's definitely going to be a boon. In current games, I don't know if I would cater it more to that. I would strictly cater it to the stuff that you really can't get access to, kind of similar to what the Virtual Console kind of did.
They're very, very true. Zach, what do you think?
Yep.
What do you think of the whole? Yeah, go for it.
No, I think it's awesome because I like Nintendo. Well, first of all, Nintendo is, you know, it's been around for so long and everyone loves them so much, but I really do think that Nintendo still is the only real people or company like making a game system for games. It seems like when you look at the PS4 and the Xbox One, it's like they want this entertainment system and you can play movies and all this kind of shit, and then if you want to, you can kind of play games. It kind of seems like they've taken the back seat, you know, to what they've been actually making these for. But it just seems like Nintendo, one thing I love about them is they have completely gone in their own direction. Like when you see like people competing, they say who's better, the Xbox One or like the PS4, the 360 or the PS3. You don't really always hear, like, you don't maybe even ever hear the Wii or the Wii U even involved in that kind of stuff. They have literally gone their own way and done their own thing, and they live, you know, life by their own standards and the way they want to do it, and they're just owning and kicking ass. I think that's respectable, and I just think, like, I love Nintendo. I've loved them forever, and I think they're the shit, and I love that they just do their own thing, and they don't just buy into whatever everybody else is doing.
Very much so, but as I said, online support will probably get them a long way if they deal to go that way.
Oh, I agree. I remember somebody reviewing Wii U launch titles, and I don't even remember. There was very, very few that had any online support, and that blew my mind that they would like. There's certain things in this day and age that you pretty much have to have, in my opinion, and one of them is some type of online play or support or something in the way of doing that. And yeah, like I don't know who was talking about this when they were saying maybe like did Zombie U not have online support?
I believe it did, but not to the extent like something like the Deadwood. You know, it's very. And a lot of that is because that, you know, Sony and Microsoft have their own servers. Nintendo doesn't really have that. They don't have a facility for it, even though when the initial reports of the Wii U were coming out, they actually said that they would have an online support structure for that console. Their online support structure is Miiverse. That's it. Which is kind of a shame. It is a shame in terms of what that console actually could do, and it's one of the reasons why I think you don't get a lot more hardcore gamers, in a sense, if I can use that term, on that platform. But people are slowly, they are slowly like going over it, migrating. But yeah, Zach, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, they definitely should work that into everything. I mean, online play is a must.
I agree. I totally agree with you. What about you, Travis?
I just think that it just gets me though that everybody's just going after Nintendo and saying, "Oh, it's the beginning of the end for the big end" and all that stuff. And I was like, "No, come on." And I think you put that pretty good yourself, Michael, when he says that the console generation just gone, and even before the PS4 and Xbox One came out, Nintendo, although the Wii U wasn't selling as well, is outselling both systems. I'm not sure if it's combined and all that, but I really don't see Nintendo. I mean, I don't think Nintendo's really going to be resting their roles on the Wii U anytime soon, because the system definitely needs some help. Well, it needs a lot of help, actually. So, but in terms of the system is selling, it just needs more games, period. And yeah, the company is pretty stubborn. And they're set to their old ways in terms of how they release games and all that for their own system. Perhaps they looked at some of the rules. Because back when NES was out, Nintendo made it known to all the publishers that they can only have 5 games out per year. I remember that so distinctly. And I think that rule has been relaxed for the past, 15 years or so. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that being the case, I really think that what I'd like to see is for Nintendo to come on and say, you guys, the Wii U is a great console, but I tell you what, we're working on something brand new. Just please stick with us and everything. And who knows, maybe within 5 years we could see a new system. Now, the only question I have about this is that does happen, where they do come up with a new system. Are they going to have this be another one of those systems just like the Wii U, where it's a touchscreen and all that, or are they going to go back to basics and just use a regular controller? That's
I think it's too soon to tell with stuff like that. I think you need to, as I said, you really shouldn't be concentrating on a new system.
Well, I know that's
yeah,
true.
You
that's
should
true. I mean, they shouldn't do that, and I totally understand that as well. And they really need to start. I'm sorry to say, Nintendo, you need to start pulling your head out of your ass and looking around. You need to do something for this system. I love the Wii U. I fucking love this system. It's the greatest thing I've ever had in my life, and to be honest, I've had so much fun with this thing. But the fact is, you guys need to not only start putting out more titles for your system, you need to reach out to some of these other third-party developers who've already jumped ship.
Is someone taking photos?
Huh?
I'm taking dick pics.
No, it's my phone. I'm checking my text messages.
Sure
But I
you
guess
are.
likely to the.
Sure you are. Someone takes.
Listen, whatever the man does in his spare time is no one else's business.
Well,
We're not here to judge.
He's on IGG and he's taking, and I can hear his camera.
I'm taking pictures. I'm taking pictures of all the doom of Nintendo right now, so I can remember them when the company dies.
Oh Lord, Nick,
making a collage.
What about you, Nick? Well,
I really think people are just jumping the gun on this. I mean, look what happened when the 3DS came out, the 2DS came out. They're all like, oh, this is going to be, a big downfall for them. Yeah, with the 3DS, they took a cut. But that's going to happen with almost any console that people don't agree with. And with Nintendo's age, I think people are just expecting way too much from them at this point.
Yeah.
They want something more innovative, and they're not going to get what they want. And so you get the people say, oh, I want this game for it. But even if you read, some articles, they say even the game market in Japan has gotten stale. So how are we going to expect new games from them if they're not going to allow for it?
Can I just say one thing real quick? I will say that the one thing that kind of annoys me on Nintendo business is how many different handhelds they release. They're kind of, for some reason, they've kind of adopted the Apple model of handhelds, where it's like we'll release our main console, then we'll release a smaller version within like 6 months, then we'll release a bigger version of it after 6 months, then we'll release our own new console, then a smaller one, and then a bigger one. It's like between the DS, the DS Lite, the DS XL, the 3DS. The 3DS XL, I believe they came out with. I know they came out with anher version of the XL.
No, that's out.
They've got the 3DS, the 3DS XL, the 2DS, the DSi, the DS Lite, the DS. It was a DSi XL.
DSi.
Yeah.
So.
It's been a small period, but it seems like they release a new version of their handheld once every 6 months, and I think that might end up burning people out after a while. In fact, it's like what Apple's going through right now. They've kind of hit a bit of a bump with their whole business model, and I'm just wondering when we're going to see the shoe drop in that regard with all these different handheld things coming out with.
I was in the store the other day and I was looking through some DS games. It was like a used store, and I saw one that looked pretty sweet, and so I pulled it out to look at it, and stamped like on the cover it said only for use with DSi. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So it's like, you can't play it, I guess, in the 3DS. You can't play it in a DS. You have to have a DSi. And I thought that was just dumb as hell.
They may be phasing the camera out soon as well, aren't they, because of that court battle? So they could probably be releasing another version of the 3DS, soon. It depends what the company wants to do, and they kind of go in motion in regards to their intentions of things. I think eventually... And I don't know if it was Zack that touched on this or if it was Xander. They probably will need to get someone younger in to negotiate how Nintendo does business, because I think that's what they're missing. They're very old school in the way that they do things. That's probably what they are missing. They're missing that whole sense of what's on the pulse today. Kind of, if you want to use a wrestling analogy, Miguel, what WWE has with Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I do think that their old mindset that they've had for the past few years is kind of hurting them in the way. I think really the biggest place where it's hurting them is in their online field. I mean, they just seemingly don't want to completely get behind online play, and you would think that after the debacle of the GameCube and how so many people shunned it for not adopting online, especially in the height of Xbox Live, that they would learn their lesson. And with the Wii, I thought it was kind of the case with the whole friend code system, but I've heard that it's not as easy as it is on the other consoles, and I just don't know why Nintendo just seemingly does not want to adopt that. It's clearly been a huge selling point for the other consoles, and Nintendo's kind of like, yeah, we are going to keep doing our thing. And I think that is probably going to do more damage than just one failed console cycle.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think the stubbornness has to go out the window. They need to sit there and go, you know what, maybe we're not right here.
One quick thing before we move on, though. You were mentioning about the 3DS camera. I think that probably what they will do is they probably will continue the camera, using it in the systems as they keep manufacturing more of the handhelds. I just don't know if they're going to continue using the same ones that they have been using it, or using a different third party to make them, or whatever. But I don't think we've seen cameras being taken out of the future 3DS systems, because there's some of these games that come out nowadays that uses augmented reality in order for the games to operate. So it's hard to say at that point if they're going to even do something like that.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. Now, let's go over to you, Nick. Do you have any news for us?
Actually, yeah, I found something really funny. There's let me get it pulled back up here, sorry. A Finnish language manual for an NES game for Dracula that's on eBay for $1,200 US right now, that they're actually questioning the authenticity of it because it was supplemented for a game published in German. And there's a lot of controversy over it because of there's supposed to be like a rarity of it.
Interesting, and I got $1,200 right now.
Yeah, that's not kind of a whole Shaq Fu situation that we had last episode, mate, okay? To start buying a Finnish... Everyone's going to start insulting you for buying that Finnish thing for $1,200. But it's in Finnish, and it's rare. What are you doing?
Buy it now.
Oh, Lord. So, any thoughts on this, guys? No?
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. It's just people want crazy shit and willing to pay all kinds of money. I guess I don't know.
Oh Lord!
It's hard to say.
Well, one at a time. Go on, Miguel.
It's hard to say because if it wasn't released in America, I don't know how rare that would be the case, because it has to have at least an official release in a country to be considered rare. I mean, there are tons of games out there that have been released in Japan that haven't been released in America that aren't as rare as you would think. It's not that you can't get them anywhere, you just can't get them in one specific country. So I mean, if this was a game that was released somewhere else, I don't know how rare it could be. And plus, with eBay, you got to be careful, because I tried looking up online some games on there, and there's a lot of replica and reproductions on there that you really got to be careful with plunking your money down for, especially for.
And we're going to see that. I was going to say, and we're going to see that a lot more with the retro market getting so much more popular. We're going to see a lot more counterfeit carts and stuff like that on eBay. There's no questions about that.
They're going to be rare, and I know, like, someone was selling a Legend of Zelda modded cart, and they're like, it's ultra rare. It's fucking ultra rare. Someone modded the game. You can download it. Bloody nutcase. You stuck it on a cart. You can't sell it for $60. Seriously.
Well, it's pretty much getting to the point where, like, you have to get it. Like, for example, if you wanted, like, a Nintendo Championships card, if I'm spending that kind of money, I would have to get it from, like, the guy who won it, or, like, the guy who, like, got it from the guy who won it. It's like, there's so much fake shit on the internet now that, like, spending that kind of money, especially for rare things, it's like, you pretty much have to go right to the source for it.
Yeah, it's like, I was saying this to, I was actually saying to Xander, people are scam artists, literally. I was on a forum quite recently. I'm not going to go into details about this, but I was on a forum quite recently where a guy was trying to sell a Nintendo 3DS, right? No stylus, no plug, no cables, no nothing, for $90. You could get a 3DS XL for $162, and yet he stood there and said that was a great deal. Seriously? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It makes you sit there and think, you're trying to give people something that's not considered a great product, and you're throwing it in there anyway to say, oh, that's a deal. Amazing deal.
Oh, I've been swindled for a while now from my local game store. I'll give you probably my favorite example. I asked the guy, the place I go to that sells games, they also sell, like, specific parts that you need, because the guy also does maintenance there. And I was fixing up an old 360 that my brother gave me that needed a new disc tray button. You know, the button that you push and it slides it out. It was for a Gen 1 Xbox 360. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I went to my local game guy for it. He had it, and I had to pay $5 for a button. He was like, no, I'll give it to you for $5, and I'm like, well, I really need that button, so I had to plunk down $5 for a button. And that's just for a button for an older console. I mean, these retro guys that are win you, man. They know that that's a new market that's popping up, and they'll do whatever it takes to fleece you out there, to fleece you out of money. It really is unfortunate, because we rip on GameStop for fleecing you, and they're a big major company. You really have no other place left to go at this point.
Well, Miguel, we've got a caller on the line. We have the gentleman from Mega Powers Radio, of course. He is the host of the Daceman Show, Chris, the Daceman Dace. Chris, you there?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
We're just talking about retro people scamming us for, like, retro stuff and overcosting things. What's your opinion on that? Do you buy retro?
Yeah, I bought the Retron a couple years ago, and I buy games for that, the cartridges and stuff like that. The Retrocon, whatever the hell it is.
Retron, yeah.
Retron, yeah, that's it.
So how you doing, Chris? What's up?
I'm good. I was just actually listening to your conversation about the Wii U, and there's really only one way to save the Wii U if that's truly a doomsday scenario. It's bring back Crash Bandicoot to that system.
I knew that was coming too, man.
If you bring back Crash, everything is saved. That's the words of wisdom I have for you.
Crash Bandicoot kind of flew the coop too early. Hopefully they will bring it back.
That's all I got.
There was that rumor that popped up a couple back.
So, Chris, have you got anything else? I know you've got something to promote for us. Do you wanna? Yeah. Do you wanna plug it on the phone?
I'll just give you a heads up, guys. We're doing a charity February 15th to the 16th, and seeing this is a gaming show, you guys are probably like all thrilled about it. We're doing a Dace-tacular gaming for a cause, with all proceeds going to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We're going to be gaming from February 15th at noon all the way to February 16th noon. So please go donate. Go to crowdrise.com/Daystacular for a cause, or check us out on fanboysanonymous.com. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
No worries, mate. Have a great night. And I will have to side with Dace on this, guys. The response for this has been really lackluster. To all you guys out there, guys and girls, if you're a fan of the Dace Man Show, if you're a fan of Fanboys Anonymous, you should be on this. Literally $10 from one people. I've got 1,000 friends on Facebook. $10 from each of those people would basically raise 10 grand for this cause. And anybody who's a fan of Fanboys Anonymous, they've got a ton of fans on their world. They've got about 100, I'd say 200-300 likes on the channel. Nothing. And that worries me. It's $10. $10 is not, I know it's like a cup of coffee, a bagel, or a nice little meal at McDonald's. That's $10, guys. Just donate $10. Get them to meet their goal. They only need $1,000 so they can get kids whatever they need in the hospital. It's a big thing. I'm a father myself. I donated $25 to this because I believe in it. So you do it too. So there you go, Dace. Thanks for being on, and hopefully we're going to see those numbers rise. So do you guys have any more opinions on this, or should we move on to the next bit of news? Let's go on to the next bit of news then. Miguel, do you have anything for us?
I haven't been able to get to a computer in the past 2 days. I've been hanging out with my folks, so I'm a little bit behind in terms of gaming news. I've got IGN's news reel up right now, so I'm kind of checking that out real quick.
Okay, no worries. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, one thing. Other than that, I don't know, I was trying to find stuff that seems kind of dead. I think I'll say 7.4 is coming out for the PS3 and the Vita, and I think that's super cool. It's coming from, who put out the ones? Tecmo, which is cool. So yeah, I was just gonna say that it's called Deception, but I think it's actually the 5th one in the series, and it's the newest one since 2005 or something. So yeah, that's coming out. I always like seeing horror games make an appearance. I would love for them to bring the 4th Fatal game over here, but that probably won't ever happen. So
that had a Wii release over in Japan.
Yeah.
It has.
No, I think it was on the Wii though.
Ah, damn it! That's like the perfect game for the Wii U. Nintendo, get off your backside.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I'll say this: I played. They made one for the 3DS called the Cursed Camera or whatever. That game. Oh my god!
Camera.
Spirit Camera. First of all, let me tell you, dude. First of all, actually, that needs its own episode. I'm sorry. I bought because it was $10. I clicked out on Amazon. I was so excited because I love Fatal Frame. That game sucks balls. Steer clear. If you were gonna buy it, don't buy it. I'll just do a review on it at some point.
Oh, I was actually going to buy that game today.
Well, don't. I wouldn't. I'm just saying the game. Good. I'm just okay. I'll say two things about this game. First of all, it comes with a manual, then it comes with a secondary manual that you have to play the game. So this game, you literally can't buy it used if it's only the cart. So if you go to GameStop and you only buy the cart, I don't think you can even play the game. You have to have the other manual that comes with it, and because it uses the camera to take a picture of the manual, and that starts the game or whatever. And because you have to use that manual, you have to play the game like a well lit area. So you're I try to put myself in a dark room and kind of get freaked out and that kind of stuff, and get all nervous and stuff. And I have to sit in a room because the camera on the 3DS can't pick up the pictures on the booklet that you have to use in the dark. So yeah,
exactly.
That's my rant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Travis, you got anything for us quickly?
I do. Star Wars 1313, the game set to cast light in the dark, the gritty underbelly of the Star Wars universe, and star everyone's favorite bounty hunter, that's not Samus. I'm talking about Boba Fett, was on the radar in every Star Wars fan who also happens to be a gamer since it was announced back in 2012. And I say because Disney bought Lucasfilm last year, It then took too long for the company to close down LucasArts and cancel the project. However, once it announced Disney's new Star Wars licensing deal with EA resulted in the long-awaited resurrection of the beloved Star Wars Battlefront series, some optimists held out hope that the production of 1313 would actually start up again under the EA banner. Sadly, this new hope was dashed by Disney, ironically, during the holiday season. According to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, on December 23rd, Disney chose to abandon the game's trademark, letting it expire rather than filing for renewal. So this could kill just about any doubts about the game being gone for good.
Couldn't they call it something else?
Well, here's the thing. 1313 was supposed to be its own story about Boba Fett, but unfortunately, since LucasArts was bought by Disney, the game was in limbo for a bit until finally it was just plain killed. So yeah,
that's unfortunate.
1313 is gone. It is gone. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. Well, the end of the day, it doesn't mean the end of it. It just means it's the end of that game in that style. They may use it eventually. Who knows?
I mean, they could, they might, resurrect it in some fashion, or they could start fresh again. But for a game that has such potential behind it, and everybody was looking forward to it, this is a major letdown. But look on the bright side, guys, we're still getting in our Star Wars Battlefront game. Yippee skippy.
Well,
but it's not even there. But it's
There's
not
also
even
plenty
named
of
by the original
expanded universe
developer.
books about Boba Fett.
Boba Fett is basically the
They
Loki of the Star Wars universe, isn't he? So bad.
Not even.
Hey,
I've
not
heard,
Boba Fett.
Yeah, go on.
No. But it has to be said though. He really was brought up only by the expanded universe, because if you look at his appearances in the first three movies, it's been a long time since I've seen him, but correct me if I'm wrong. He only has, between all three of those movies, 10 minutes of screen time, and yet somehow he's amassed this huge cult. Yeah. Honestly, he really doesn't do much in the canon of the series. It's really the expanded universe that has really made him into anything, and there's always that debate on whether or not the expanded universe is part canon or whatever. I mean, I've heard so many different theories about where the canon of the Star Wars universe goes in terms of that. But, I don't know. I can see why most people don't like Boba Fett, but I can see why people do. It's kind of you either are or you aren't.
Well,
yeah, I mean, he has...
Okay, Travis first, then Zach. Go.
But that's the thing. This game was supposed to be about Boba Fett. I mean, yeah, he only had 10 minutes of screen time in the wonderful prequels. But the 1313 was supposed to be a developing story for that character, so it kind of leads up to the awesome trilogy, the one we all grew up with. But I think that's what the whole point of 1313 was.
Okay, Zach?
Well, he was actually talking about 10 minutes in the original trilogy. We weren't really counting the child, at least I wasn't, or the clone of Jango Fett, I guess. But yeah, he has his own trilogy, the Bounty Hunter Wars and stuff, talking about, spoiler alert, how he actually gets out of the Sark pit and that kind of stuff. But through comics and all kind of stuff, he in the movies he doesn't have much time, but the way they describe him is he's like the ultimate badass, like he's the number one bounty hunter, just as he's described in the books and everything. And read the Bounty Hunter Wars if you want to know more about Boba Fett, and you can they even do a lot of stuff about him in the Han Solo trilogy and stuff, and it's awesome. I mean, the game might get killed. You can't depend on these things anymore, because even what the Clone Wars show got cut off, but you can always these books were written 15 years ago or whatever, so you can always go back to those and read them, and they don't take very long to read, and they just kick ass. Amazing writers.
Yeah, and think of it this way, guys. In the end, even if you actually look at like gaming mysteries and stuff like that, you can see that even if games are cancelled or they're discontinued, they end up using some form of mechanic on another game that they do. Like the Mario, that Mario game for the GameCube they were going to do with the little Marios and stuff. That turned into Pikmin.
Oh yeah, Pikmin.
Yeah. If you look at certain mechanics in the Zelda games, they end up getting recorded into other Zelda games. So it's not, you can't sit there and think, oh, they're not going to use it. The EA may look at this and say, maybe we can use that style and the substance from that game or the scenery or whatever is going on in that game and use it in another one of the Star Wars games that we do. So don't fear it. Don't think it's not going to happen. Just remember that it may not be put in that form or fashion. Now, moving from that, I want a little sort of shout out here for someone who passed away quite recently. She was on life support. She's basically someone from the wrestling world. I don't know if most of you would know her here, but I want to say rest in peace to Mae Young, who died recently. She was on life support, and they had to turn the life support machine off. Does anyone want to say anything? Does it tell messages?
The only thing
Gonzaga?
The only thing I can remember, I was going to say, the only thing I can remember about Mae Young is all the crazy stuff she did with Jerry Lawler on Monday Night Raw, the panties match.
I don't give me a hand with Mark Henry. Miguel, what about you? You're a huge wrestling fan. I didn't think you'd be speechless.
I'm not speechless. It's just different place, I wasn't prepared to talk wrestling on a gaming thing, so I didn't really have much planned in terms of talking about wrestling. I missed last night's Mark Out moments, unfortunately, because I wasn't near my computer. I probably would have talked a lot more about this. It's unfortunate. It really is. I can't say that I'm too sad about it, though. I mean, 90 years is a pretty long life to live. I mean, I'd love to be able to guarantee myself 90 years, It's unfortunate to see somebody die, but at the same time, given the business, it's nice to see somebody die through old age and not from blowing themselves out through cocaine.
Yep, very, very true.
You got to really look at it from that side. I mean, I could say a ton of good things about it, but it would just be parroting what a lot of other people have said. There's not much I can really offer.
Zach, what about you?
I don't know anything about her.
Ah, cool. Okay. Well, all I have to say, everyone here from I Got Gameplay, of course, and from all our other shows that accumulate over there in the radio family, shows that I've sort of been a part of on Spark Out Moment, Keeping Kayfabe, etc. Our hearts go out to Mae's family, and hopefully wherever she is, she's probably panting God as we speak. So, going on from that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on. Yeah, go on, Xander.
I was about to mention one more thing. I was wanting to throw in something when we were talking about Jeff right before we segue.
Yeah, go for
it. For everyone that wants to play as Jango Fett and you want to be a bounty hunter and you're really upset that 1313 is not coming out, you can always play Star Wars: The Bounty Hunter, GameCube and the PS2.
Is that any good?
Yeah,
it's rare.
Good. It's fun though.
Well, it's not rare, but I've heard it's good.
You can also use that nasty little word, coordinator. Don't say I said it. I will just defend my stance and say that you're a lying bastard. I did not say it. I did not do that. I did not hit her. Hi, Mark.
You said emulator.
I did not say emulator. Hey, Mark.
Can I say one last, I thought are we going to segue into the main topic, or are we going to keep with news? Because I got one last bit of news that we could talk about.
Shoot with your last bit of news. Go for it.
The Steam Dev Days event recently passed from Valve, and it looks as though the upcoming Steam controller that they showed off at the last big gaming event is going to go through another redesign. Some pictures of the new Valve controller from the event leaked out onto Twitter, I believe, and it looks like they've abandoned their all touchscreen setup. It looks like they're still going to have the little touchscreen bits, but they're still going to have Instant Act as both a D-pad and your standard 4-button setup. It looks like they've got it looks like they've got the two pads on the side, and then on the middle bottom part, similar to where the analog sticks on a PlayStation 3 controller would be, they have a 4-button setup on both sides, meaning that it's probably going to be their way of emulating, a standard D-pad and 4-button support. Now, from what I'm hearing, according to the article that I'm reading, that was done for backwards compatibility issues, because Steam has a lot of older arcade titles that probably wouldn't work as best with that all touchscreen setup. So it seems like for backwards compatibility's sake, they're also going to add the traditional 4-way button concept to future controllers.
Cool. Any thoughts on this? No.
I thought the controller was going to be really cool without buttons, but I mean, I definitely obviously would prefer buttons, so I'm happy it happened. But I just thought the design was fucking awesome. It was new, it was original, and it just seems cool.
What about you, Travis?
Excited to hear that. I mean, I'm an old school gamer. I gotta have buttons.
I need those buttons.
I need them buttons.
What about you, Xander?
I need a fever. I need a fever, but
I'm pretty excited about it. I like the fact that I have buttons that, you know, if I do play a Steam controller, I won't feel like I'm, you know, using 2 old rotary dials, because that's what made me think of. If you guys remember those.
For me,
who was the comedian talking about, like, if you had a 0 and a 9 in your number, you weren't getting called? On those old rotary phones?
I can't remember who that was.
So let me get this straight. There's like 14 different Steam boxes, but there's one controller for all of them?
Yes.
Like Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
One controller can unite them all.
Yes.
It'll be like,
it doesn't matter.
That's why they wanted it with the
surprise, motherfucker.
Go on, Miguel.
I was going to say that they had the touchscreen at first. Was they wanted as open a controller setup as possible, so they made it with just a touchscreen, and then from there, whatever you needed would be on the screen. But honestly, for gaming, I think you need buttons. You lose a sort of tactile feedback that is necessary, especially with a lot of the older titles. I mean, I can't imagine playing a fighting game with a touchpad. You know, I can't imagine playing something like a first-person shooter with a touchpad. I mean, it's just way too imprecise. You know, you need that you know, definitive button press to really, it was good, you know?
Yeah, I had this controller for the Genesis that the D-pad was pretty much just like the Steam thing, and I fucking hated that because I could never do anything right on it. Do you guys know the controller I'm talking about? Maybe
I do. I remember the infomercial.
Yeah.
I remember the infomercial.
Horrible.
I just remember that
it showed
octagon thing that it had. Do you remember that motion controller system with that?
Yeah, not that thing.
The activator,
yeah.
Well, it had some guy with some long hair looking like he was like Jean-Claude Van Damme, just doing a fly kick through that thing. I wonder, you know what, if he was actually in a room, do you think he probably fly kicked himself through the kitchen?
Yeah, he did.
It's probably
the controller I was thinking about is the Turbo Touch 360, and it is a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah!
I'm looking at a picture of it right now, actually.
That thing sucked. I could never get the D-pad to do anything right. And it's like you can't push anything. It's like tracks your finger. I mean, it's probably a million times better now that it's like 20 years later, but still, that thing sucked.
Well, going on to things like... Go on, Travis.
I was just going to say, I've never seen a review about that here recently. I can't remember who it was, though. They showed off the Turbo Touch 360.
Yo,
was like
I literally threw that thing in the garbage. That thing sucked.
Rest in peace, Turbo Touch 360. Now, going on from that, guys, let's segue onto today's topic, of course. So we'll be seeing you after this. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you actually listen to that lovely acoustic session there, they actually done, and I'll give you the name of the gentleman behind this, because it's not original. I didn't compose it myself, of course, but it actually is a mashup of the Silent Hill themes. Can anyone guess what movies, what games they're from? Silent Hill. Come on.
Silent Hill 1 and 2.
Yes. I kind of merged there. And it's basically, it's actually from the Silent Hill medley acoustic version. And the score is actually available. It's by a gentleman on YouTube by the name of With Ether. It's a duo, believe it or not. And it is available. It's everything Silent Hill 1 and 2 games in acoustic melodies. And basically, you can check them out on their YouTube channel, youtube.com/with ether. So make sure that you guys check it out. It's an awesome, awesome channel, and they've got loads of acoustic sessions on there. Now, let's go on to the subject of tonight's show, of course, the Silent Hill games. So I'm going to throw it over to our man of knowledge, of course, Miguel Leon. Miguel, do you know the story behind Silent Hill? What happened? Why they started developing the game in the first place?
I don't know, actually. I wasn't aware that there was a special story behind it. I just figured, honestly, I figured it was a cash on the craze on the Resident Evil, because around that time you had everybody seemingly coming out with their own versions of the Resident Evil formula, whether it be Sony themselves with the Siphon Filter series, Square with the Parasite Eve series. I just figured this was just me basically saying, yeah, we want to get in on this whole survival horror thing. Let's do that.
Zach, do you know?
Yeah, I know about the location. There's a place in Pennsylvania, I think. I can't remember the name of the town. And there's like a coal fire. Well, like there's a huge coal mine that like goes under like a lot of the town, and it caught on fire. And now, like, there's cracks. So this town is like 99.9% abandoned. I think like the mayor of the town still lives there, and like one crazy ass old lady or something lives there, and the rest is abandoned, and it's completely like blocked off. Like you're not even supposed to go in there. And so like this coal fire is like never going out. It's like very like you could literally walk on the street and collapse, and like the road could collapse, and you could like fall in there and just die. So like they don't allow anyone in there, and so cracks, like there's vents and cracks throughout this town, and there's just like fire, I guess, and like hot air coming out, and it smells, I think, like sulfur all over the place. A couple of my buddies went there to check it out, and they said it's awesome. It's crazy.
What about you, Xander? Do you know the story behind Team Silent?
I don't. I remember hearing some certain stories about a younger developer was helping to make that game, and he went over Konami to work on it. Like they tried to get him out of it, but he like stood his ground.
You're half right on that one, and I'll clarify in a second.
Yeah.
Travis, what about you?
I just know that it's just, at the time, it's one of those survival horror games, and I really don't know much about the backstory. Sorry.
Okay, Nick, do you want to clarify? Because I think you know.
Yeah. Well, the idea that I had was mentioned earlier about that town, but I know, like, what I was reading is they said they wanted to base a lot of it on, what you see in, like, European and Japanese versions of America, and that's why it looks so disjointed, but in terms of the whole game, it's not really been clear from what I've seen.
Okay. Well, let me clarify. You're all actually right, in a sense, because it was based on on kind of an American town, and it was very how Japan saw America. But Team Silent themselves, as a developmental group, they actually were put together because there were a lot of programmers and producers who failed in the production company. There were guys who no one else would touch. They were the bottom of the barrel, but who a lot of projects, and they've shoved all these guys together to make Team Silent. Now, the person that, of course, Xander's talking about is actually, I believe it's Kiichiro Toyama, who's a director of Silent Hill. He, at the time, was a very young intern. He actually taught himself how to render 3D models and graphics. And the brass at Konami was saying, no, you know what? You're not going to do that. You're not going to, become the lead graphics designer on the game. You don't know graphics, blah, blah. So he taught himself how to program, how to render graphics, how to do 3D models. And in order to produce the first cutscene in the game, the one where, literally the character Harry Mason's sitting up on the bed, and he sees the is it the nurse or is it the cop? I think it's the nurse. Yeah.
No, it's the cop. The nurse doesn't pop up until the second half of the game.
Yeah, that's correct. And he sees the cop. He basically spent all his time. He ate, he slept, he shat in the Konami offices. No one even knew that he was there. He lived in the offices in order to finish this thing by himself. All the scenes, all the cutscenes, all the 3D renditions and the editing stuff were done by him. All the models and characters and everything. And what they did is they were set to the task, and as Miguel said, because of the Resident Evil craze, they were set to the task to produce a game similar to that, but they instead decided to play a game which was on mood and emotion and put something together where it was the anticipation. They would give you this big payoff, but they wouldn't let you know when it happened. And that's basically how the first Silent Hill game came to be. Now, who wants to basically tell the story about what this game was about, what Silent Hill was about? I'll throw it at you, Miguel, because I like it on you.
The first game is basically on the face of it. All right, let's talk about on the face of what it's about. You play as Harry Mason, who is driving through the town of Silent Hill when all of a sudden your car is crashed and you wake up and your daughter, I forget what the daughter's name is off the top of my head.
Cheryl.
I believe it's Alexa? Cheryl is basically missing, and you have to go through this sleepy town of Silent Hill and try to find her. And as you go through the town, you start finding all these really disturbing monsters, and just weird things happen. From there, it gets a little bit more odd, and I'd love to be able to go more into it, but it's been so long since I've played the games that I'm a little bit fuzzy on what the core of the story is. I believe the core of the story is Cheryl is the embodiment of, she's a sacrifice for this cult that wants to bring out the devil or something, some type of demon that's supposed to destroy the world, create a new order over it. Honest, like I said, it's been so long since I've actually played the game. I can't tell you what the actual core story is. I could just tell you the face of it. So I'm going to have to pass it off to somebody else.
Right, it was originally released in '99, and basically also available for download from 2009. And you play the character Harry Manson, who's just for a missing adopted daughter in the mysterious town of Silent Hill, stumbling upon a cult conducting a ritual to revive a deity it worships. He discovers his daughter's true origin, and you have multiple game endings with this. Now let's talk about experiences with Silent Hill. So we'll start with you, Zach.
One thing I want to say about Silent Hill is, okay, to compare this 1 second to Fatal Frame, I love when people give you weapons that aren't weapons. So in Fatal Frame, you have this camera, and so it takes a scary story and the fact that you have this weapon that's not a weapon, it throws it through the roof. So in Silent Hill, for example, they give you things like pipes. I remember the first weapon in Silent Hill 2 is a wooden, what was it? It was like a wooden, it's like a plank. You find it in the road, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And that's what you're fighting with. That to me, I love horror games, and people can do horror games with actual, like, weapons like guns and rifles and pistols and all that kind of stuff, even knives. But when they give you things like hammers, you know, like, not necessarily like an axe, because an axe is used for chopping anyway, but like the and not like a sword. Like when they give you things like pipes and hammers and pieces of wood and, you know, that kind of stuff. And Silent Hill did that, and that is one of the things that has always stood out to me. Like, I love, like, so it's already a scary story, and whenever I play scary games, I always put myself in the environment. So I turn the lights off. I get myself all psyched up to be scared, and that's what I do. But this is the kind of stuff that you don't even need to. It's not even storytelling that makes it so much scary. It's the fact that you are pretty much you almost no way to protect yourself except for these random things that aren't even weapons. I mean, yeah, like, you know, a weapon of opportunity, as they say in the military, is anything that you can kill someone with, which is anything. But I just love that they always did that, you know, like pipes and all that kind of stuff. And that's one reason that Silent Hill has always stood out to me the whole time it's been around.
Yeah, it kind of brings that primitive feeling of being human, you know, and it kind of plays on the emotion of fear, because, you know, like when you're playing like Resident Evil, you have a shotgun, you know, you have a Desert Eagle, you have a freaking bazooka, you have a rocket launcher, but like, yeah, Silent Hill, you had, you know, they didn't really emphasize a whole lot on weapons, and so when you did get a gun, you were relieved that you had a freaking gun.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really, like, gives you a feeling of relief. Like, holy shit, I can actually, like, protect myself now properly.
Yeah, very, very true. It's like with that game in general, they didn't give you many options. I remember when I first started mine, I was literally running around with no weapons, with a flashlight and a fucking radio. And that radio scared the shit out of me every time it started going off.
Oh, yeah.
And you sit there and you think to yourself, God, you know, how is it going to get any worse? And then a monster appears behind you, and you're freaking crapping yourself. It was so open world before open world even existed. It was one of those games where everything was clouded. You didn't know where you were going. Your inhibitions were devoided of anything. And if you were in the right setting, it would scare the freaking pants off of you. So let's go on to you, Miguel. What was your first experience?
I was just starting to get into survival horror games at the time, and I think before this, my only other experience I had with that type of genre was Resident Evil Code Veronica, I believe, was one of the... No, it was the Dino Crisis series, and then I went to Resident Evil Code Veronica, which I still love, and then I happened to get a copy of Silent Hill just... I had a relative of mine that just gave me a bunch of old PS1 titles that he didn't play anymore, and mixed in with that was a copy of Silent Hill, and I knew I was playing something different once the radio started to get into play. That really, I think, took the game to a different level, because, I mean, it was always scary walking around in Resident Evil in a way, but it wasn't as scary because you always had a sense of what was in front of you. You know, you were rarely ever, you know, shocked from behind when it comes to your enemies. But Silent Hill, they put you right in the middle of darkness with nothing but a flashlight and this radio that would go off randomly, and you never knew what was going to come out and get you. You just knew whatever it was probably going to try to kill you. And that to me elevated the game to something more. And I love the game. I mean, I know there's nothing really that I could say that hasn't already been said in terms of Silent Hill. It really is an experience that I think anybody who considers themselves a fan of survival horror games really needs to go out and play the first game.
Very true. What about you, Travis? What's your first experience?
When the game first came out, I was really into Resident Evil like everybody else was, and yeah, I thought this is kind of cool. This is going to be. I was hoping to be scared, and this game is a lot. In my opinion, I think it's a lot scarier than Resident Evil was back in the day, and of course it's scarier than it is now. But that's just my opinion. But I just love the fact that I just had the lights turned off and had the TV up and the day and night, and just getting the shit scared out of me, something fierce. I was like, oh, this game is fantastic. And sadly, I have a copy of it, but I've never finished it. But, oh my god, this game still blows me away.
What about, Xander, have you put your impressions on the game?
No. What I was going to say was my first experience with Silent Hill was shortly after I had just got my PlayStation. When I got my PlayStation, I bought a PlayStation magazine that used to have those demo discs, and that was one of the demos on there was Silent Hill. And I remember I was getting into Resident Evil at the time, and I was like, oh, this game's kind of like Resident Evil, until I started seeing these short, naked babies running after me with butcher knives.
They scared the fucking shit out of me. Seriously.
Then I was just like, oh my god. I mean, that moment that the world changes and it becomes, dark, and you see like the rusted, bloody wheelchair on the side and you're on this fence, I just remember just being like, oh my god, this is what nightmares are made of. I was like, I don't know, I was probably like 11 or 12 at the time, and I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. I mean, like Resident Evil, I felt like an action hero. I was scared, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, I'm a member of STARS, where this one was almost like, it really played on psychological horror.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about the series.
I think as well, if you look at Resident Evil, it was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger zombie movie. Like, zombies, I kill you, zombies. You never get it seriously, especially with the initial cutscene with that game. With Silent Hill, it's like you were in Twin Peaks on steroids. Twin Peaks, when I was a kid.
That's a really good analogy. I actually really like that.
But it's so true.
Yeah,
Like, Twin Peaks,
here.
when I was a kid, I used to watch Twin Peaks, and that scared me. It was one of those things where sometimes you wouldn't have a clue what the fuck is going on, but stuff would still make sense. And that's exactly what Silent Hill was like. Yeah, go on.
That just makes me really want David Lynch to direct a Silent Hill movie now. I really want to see that.
Ooh.
I think you'd get it right.
Ooh.
But we're going to touch on Silent Hill movies a bit loosely afterwards. Now, let's go on from our experiences of Silent Hill and move on to Silent Hill 2. Who wants to take Silent Hill 2? I'll give it to you, Travis. Tell us a bit. Oh, you want to do it? Okay, go for it. Let you do it now.
Oh, okay. Silent Hill 2, I think, was a huge step forward in the series because whereas the first one was scary, it was more of a visual fear. You didn't know what was going to creep out from behind you. It was constantly putting you in this claustrophobic setting. It was throwing all this weird stuff at you, but it was on the surface. It was very much until this in that kind of vein of a Resident Evil game in a sense. With 2, on the other hand, they went full on psychological. They messed with your head in a deeper sense. It took me a while to figure out all the symbolism of a lot of the stuff in the second Silent Hill game, but when you really unwrap what a lot of the stuff in the game means, it takes on such a heavy tone. It really transcends just your standard game. I think more than the first one, the second one is really what made this series special.
And I want to point out as well, for a game that had this survival horror kind of mentality that scared the shit out of you, the subtext was freaking amazing. It was like, if you throw away all the monsters, if you throw away all the fear and the hatred and the self-loathing in this game, it's literally just about one man's journey to come into acceptance. Literally what it is, to accept what's happened, to come to terms with the death of a loved one. If you haven't played the game, and I know that this is spoilers, guys, but if you literally haven't played the game, do so. Don't get the HD fucking collection version. Seriously, just don't.
No.
If you want to play it in HD, hype up your PC and play it on your fucking PC, because trust me.
Honestly, if I were to make a suggestion, if you have to play a good-looking version of this game, go out and get the Xbox version, the Xbox re-release, the Shattered Dreams re-release. That was the version that I played. I didn't play it on the PS2. I played it on the Xbox, and that game blew me away. The lighting that they used for that game is still to this day some of the best lighting I've seen on a console. I mean, it really they really put their heart and soul into that re-release. And I honestly, if you can get your hands on the PC version, great. But if you want a genuine console experience with that game, see if you can find a copy of it for the Xbox. I believe the old 360 is backwards compatible with it, but I'm not sure.
He means the extended version of the game. And that extended version was done by Team Silent. That wasn't done by the epic failure that was the HD collection, which was done by Double Helix. But we'll go into that later because I've got a fucking.
It was actually called. That one's actually called Restless Dreams. I think the remake that you're talking about, which was Shattered Memories, isn't that a remake of the first one?
Yeah,
I got mine.
He's getting them crossed. Yeah. He's getting his wires crossed. It's Silent Hill 2, Restless Dreams on the Xbox, guys. Check it out. If you can get a copy, get a copy. If someone's trying to overprice it, just wait. You can probably find a copy. There's also a higher resolution version on Windows as well that you can actually play. They had a re-release version of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, which was the HD version, which we're not going to talk about until later. But the main character in this one was James Sunderland, who was called to Silent Hill with a letter from his deceased wife. After having received the letter, he was then informed that she's waiting for him there. And he has no memory of what happened prior to that. All he really thinks is that she basically died, that she died from this unknown illness that couldn't be cured. Now, let's go into experience again, and this time we're going to start with Nick. Nick, did you have any experience with this game?
The only experience I've really had with the game was, because I've never really gotten to Silent Hill, was watching that video, that link that you sent me.
Yeah. It
really looked interesting, and from what I've read, I like the psychological aspect of the game more than anything else.
What about you, Xander?
I got 2 words. Pyramid Head. The first experience of Pyramid Head. It seemed like, of course, I'm really not trying to compare Resident Evil with Silent Hill, but it just happens. But, you had Resident Evil 3 that had Nemesis that, scared the hell out of you. You knew when he was around, because he'd be like, stars. You're like, oh shit, I need to, get my ammo. I need to get some herbs on. But with Pyramid Head, you didn't know. And there was really no way of killing Pyramid Head. If you went to a room and Pyramid Head was there, he was almost like the scissors guy in Clock Tower. You just had to do something. You had to get out of the situation. And that's why Pyramid Head becomes popular arch villains or dark entities of video games. I mean, Pyramid Head's freaking awesome.
Yep. Travis, what about you? What was your experience?
This is, again, when the game first came out, because I did a lot of rentals back then before I bought anything. And what I loved about, like the opening cinematic, when the guy goes to the mirror and he's just looking himself over, and the way that was animated, that was done at 60 frames per second. I mean, that's kind of minuscule for some people, but for me, that looks gorgeous. And there's also, I mean, you could tell just a little bit if you look really closely, but they added some, a little bit of some film grain, maybe a couple of scratches, trying to make it look like a movie. But the game, it's just like I said, it was a heavy emphasis on psychological scares in this game.
And also, again, the voice acting in this game was amazing.
It was tremendous.
It wasn't like kind of that
really
shitty voice acting, was it? It was actually, you could hear the expressions. Everything was very emotive, and you could tell because apparently Team Silent actually had lay actors rehearse. They were rehearsing in order to get the right emotions and the right reactions from the characters. It's the first time anybody actually did this, and it showed in the game itself. So, as you were interested.
No, I mean that was just it too. This was a huge improvement over the very first game, and I really regret never picking up a copy, but the game was just at that time, I just didn't know how they go from there in terms of visuals. But it was just beautiful.
What about you, Xander?
What about Silent Hill 2?
Sorry.
He said the Pyramid Head thing.
I'm mixing you with
Yeah,
Zach.
yeah.
Zach?
Yeah. I will completely agree with Xander. That Pyramid was like a pants dumper. And you know what's funny is, you guys remember we had Tom on the show? We had him on for one of those, the online community thing. He went to PAX one year and he like fell in love with a girl dressed as Pyramid Head. Like he was telling me how bad, like he was like, yo, that shit turns me on. So yeah, whatever. I just thought I'd add that in the conversation. But yeah, the atmosphere of the
Your
second
friend is
one
a
completely
fucking
kick ass.
freak. That's all I'm saying.
Who's the man? Anyway, whatever. At least it was a girl in the costume.
Is he short?
but-
You didn't actually see the head. It was Pyramid Head. You know, it could be a man with boobs.
Yeah. Like, no, he talked to her afterwards. Anyway, yeah. But that's what put him over the edge with her. But anyway, I remember being too.
I'm now picturing the guy getting off to Silent Hill. That's just.
Like, the thing of it is, I think we even talked about it, and he said like if he was doing her, he would leave the pyramid head on, and like I don't know, just,
Oh my
he
god.
was loving it. Like, yo, he was loving it.
Will be James Southern, please. Auntie Logue.
Anyway, I remember the atmosphere of the second one though was awesome. The atmosphere was really, really good. Someone had said something else that I was actually going to chime in on, but I can't remember. So that might be it for what I have to say. But
Yeah, go on.
no, I was gonna talk about something that somebody else brought. I can't remember what they brought up. So
Okay. So we're basically touching on Silent Hill 2 now, guys. Just so you know, we've got 30 minutes left. If you want to call in, and I know I haven't been talking about this number rather regularly, so I'll just hit it out here. You can call in on 718-664-9265, or you can click on the Skype button to call in and let know your experiences with the Silent Hill franchise. So as we continue, let's go now to Miguel. What was your personal experience with this game?
I'm kind of in the same boat with Travis. I really do regret not picking this up early on in game when it first came out. I was still kind of finding myself into the survival horror games, and by the time I did want to pick it up, it had actually jumped up in price substantially. I mean, I remember when at one point copies of 2, 3, and 4 were ranging for like $20 still, and they had been out on the market for like a solid 5 years. I mean, this game really did not drop in value for the longest time. The only version that did drop was the Xbox version, and it wasn't until about the time that the 360 was announced. So I really never got a chance to play it, at least my own copy. But like I said, I had a friend of mine that had the Xbox version, and I played that for a little while. I borrowed it. My experience with it was uneasy, and I think that's what I liked about the game. And you could say a little bit in terms of the first one, but the second one was really one of those. The second one really amped that up, where you just kind of played it and you just were like, something feels wrong about this. Nothing about this situation feels right. It was kind of like the same feeling you get watching like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it just didn't have the feeling that you were used to dealing with a version of that type of game or it didn't feel like a Resident Evil game. It just felt off. And I think that's what really made it feel. I think that's what really puts it in place when it comes to people's minds in terms of this game. And in terms of the cinematic quality that you guys were talking about, Silent Hill to me is like Metal Gear. It's one of those games that when you talk about transferring the video game experience to the cinema, that's usually one of the two franchises that people talk about that really should have deserved better, at least in terms of Silent Hill, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, and the one thing I have to admit about this game as well is actually considered by the majority of fans to be the favorite of the franchise. Now,
agreed.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah,
and a lot of it, and most of it people don't actually know as well, had to do with the voice acting. And the lead who played James Sunderland, I'm trying to figure out what his name is. It would come to me. What was his name? Well, I have no idea what his name was. But he wasn't actually, the guy who played him wasn't actually an actor, believe it or not. I believe he was a lawyer. Was an accountant. I think it was an accountant. But what happened was he was roaming around Japan when a member of Team Silent actually spotted him. They heard him, spotted him, and then took him in for to the audition for the character, and he got it. And that sort of led him to becoming that character, and he's synonymous for that character. If only I can remember his freaking name. This is what happens when you do a show at 1 a.m. Your brain kind of turns to mush.
Troy Baker. That's the guy's name. It's
No, I think that's the guy on the HD collection. That's
the guy's name is Guy Cheehee.
That's it, Guy Cheehee. Troy Baker was the guy who took over from him and basically talked shit about him for various interviews. Guy Cheehee. And you know what? And I have to admit as well, Guy loves the franchise. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the controversy that came with this game, because we have to talk about that just quite quickly. Konami never signed their voice actors to agreements on these games. So they owed these guys royalties. Now, what happened when they were doing the HD collection? They stated to these guys that they were going to use them again. You know, they had to get them to sign it, because at the time the American team Helix, Double Helix, I think they were called, they were basically dealing with the re-release for the HD collection, and there was a huge load of issues with it. Now, basically, Guy stated to them, well, I'm not going to sign anything new unless I get paid for it, because they were only paid like a one-off fee for the first one, and were never paid again. And they told him, you know, we'll give you a contract and to reflect that and stuff. And he just said, look, you can either pay me, or I'm not going to allow my voice to be used on this. Again, people got a bit angry and annoyed, and then everyone started blaming Guy Cheehee for the issues with James Sutherland. But it got worse to the point where they found out that most of the original actors and actresses weren't contacted. And then people basically went back and forth. Eventually, they made the deals. They got the original cast members to sign the rights over, and they never got any payment for it. But Double Helix Studios, what they decided to do instead was rewrite the script. They wanted the guy who was responsible for it. I'm trying to bring out the name of the director who dealt with the HD collection. I'll let you know what his name was. Went out there and he wanted Konami to redo the character models and the voices just so he could make a kind of a different version, the way that they were worded. And I don't know what was wrong with this guy, but he was a bit stupid. I don't know what he was thinking in terms of this. Did you guys know about this controversy by any chance? Yeah, go on, Miguel.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, whoever that was. You had a thought more than
I was Travis.
Yeah, I'm still probably on a delay of some kind, but no, I've heard about this, and the thing is, I haven't even played the HD collection, and from what I'm hearing, this could be a bad thing to even get that version. So, and while we were talking about Silent Hill 2, and we're going to get into 3 here in a moment, I was just checking on eBay for the PS2 version, and I can easily get that. So that seems like the best thing to do is, if you can find the copy online, just get that and for the HD collection, because from what I understand, if all the voice actors have been replaced, and it's not nearly as good as original, then yeah, it was.
Well, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you how bad it was actually. The HD collection, you know, with most, if you've got played any HD collections of your favorite games, so let's go off the bat.
Yeah.
Name a HD collection that you guys have played that you enjoyed, like God of War, for instance.
Metal Gear
I
Solid.
have Metal Gear Solid HD collection.
Yes, and they were made by, basically, it was a different company that made these. Now, the company that was responsible for Silent Hill HD collection, however, they decided that they they went onto a hard drive and tried to find a raw copy of the game. And this was the game before they started QA testing it and fixing it for the bugs. So the existing bugs that were there to begin with were still there. They then started creating a bit that, messing around with it, messing around with the characters, the art direction, everything on the game, and it looked flawed. It didn't look right. Now, for Silent Hill 2, though, because the original actors signed their rights over to it, they managed to have both voices, the new guys and the existing characters, on the HD collection. Silent Hill 3, however, they only have new voices. And it's because the original actors from that they didn't contact at all. Now, the huge issue with this was the game was extremely buggy. The fact that it wasn't done appropriately made that there was even people saying on the PlayStation 3 version, as soon as you get a trophy, the game would crash. That's how bad the HD collection was. And I'm trying to figure out who the guy was that was behind it. Most of you guys, if you know, let us know, because it's a freaking nightmare. The game is a nightmare. Now let's go on. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that the HD remake, they had a patch for it that was released for the PS3.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the patch they made for the 360 didn't go through.
Yeah. So
they actually had to refund a lot of people that bought the HD remake because it's so defective.
They also offered a free game too. But some people, there was a chart of free games they could pick from. I thought it was the opposite. I thought the 360 one worked and the PS3 one didn't.
Yeah, it was basically they had the patch for the PS3 one. The 360 one did work, but it was having the same problems. The patch that they originally put out on the PS3 to fix the system from crashing anytime it got achievements, they did not actually have it for the 360 itself. They cancelled the rollout of that patch to the point where people were extremely pissed off. So, Travis, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to reiterate that the 360 has what I call the broken game.
If you want to look at a more in-depth view on the HD collection, check out Twin Perfect's YouTube channel, youtube.com/TwinPerfect. They do a huge breakdown of the Silent Hill games, and they do a literally an on-point review of the HD collection, including parodies of the developers behind it, because they've got quotes. They've got like 20 to 30 different quotes from developers stating what they thought was wrong with the game, and it was just a bunch of idiots, fanboys, who thought they would do Silent Hill Team Silent. It was ridiculous. Now, let's move on from that clusterfuck onto Silent Hill 3. So, who's going to talk about Silent Hill 3? So, let's go to Zach. Zach, do you know anything about Silent Hill 3?
Well, I know that Silent Hill 3 is the actual sequel to Silent Hill.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to talk about was about Silent Hill 3. In the very beginning, when you're at that deserted carnival or whatever, I don't even know what you would even call it, but with those bunnies, with the pink bunnies. I thought it was quite crazy. Beyond that, I played the game so long ago, I really don't remember a lot about it.
Okay. So Miguel, do you know anything about Silent Hill 3?
I know that it's a sequel to it, to the original Silent Hill. Unfortunately, I'll say this is the one Silent Hill game from the Team Silent era that I was not a big fan of. I tried playing it. I have two gripes with it. The first gripe I have with it is the lack of mood. And what I mean is that whenever you run to an enemy in the Silent Hill 3, it would crank up this really bad punk metal kind of thing every time you would get near an enemy, and to me that just really took me out of the game. it lost the ambience of it whenever you got next to an enemy, because it would start up slowly. The closer you got to it, the more this music would hit. And it's just like, it's like, you know, it starts off really silent, and all of a sudden you hear, and I'm just like, ugh. That's just, why? Why do that? And the second one was, this game, more than any of the other Silent Hill games, put an emphasis on running away. You know, you weren't technically supposed to be able to fight the enemies, because for those of you that don't know, the main character in this is Cheryl, the girl of the first game. You play as her. She's much more grown up now, and I get what they were going for. You know, playing a character that is a female, you're not really meant to be able to be much of a fighter. You know, you're not supposed to be able to take these creatures on hand to hand or with a gun or anything like that. You're just a normal teenager. So there's more of an emphasis on running away, and honestly, in a game that has a lot of backtracking in it, that annoys me. I like to be able to beat my enemies. I don't like to be able to have to run away from them, especially because running in these types of games, especially in the Silent Hill games, I'm not saying the controls are bad, but they are not meant to be nimble. At least not till the fourth one. I think the fourth one really upped the ante in terms of its control scheme, but I just did not like that aspect. It wasn't as implemented well as it should have been. And I've tried playing the game multiple times, and I've just never been able to get through it.
Okay. What's your experience with it, Xander?
Actually, I've never played the third Silent Hill, but I was gonna chime in on what Miguel was talking about running away. If you didn't like that, definitely don't play Shattered Memories on the Wii.
I've got more issues with.
Well, we're going to go.
I've got my own issues with Shattered Memories.
Yeah, we'll go into that in a minute, actually. So, Travis, what was your experience with Silent Hill 3?
Much like Xander, I didn't play this game. It's not because I didn't want to, I just never got a chance to, so I missed out.
So, Nick, what were your impressions?
From what I've read about the game, I mean, it's actually, it's not Cheryl. It's, well, I don't want to give a spoiler here, but it's a girl named Heather who is like this past life sort of being. And from what I've read, this is supposed to be the last of the good games in the series, actually.
Yeah. It's supposed to close the story of Silent Hill altogether. And basically, what the series was about, it was, as Zach said, it was a true sequel. And it was actually rather well received by critics, despite Miguel's issues with it. Even though a lot of people actually do say that they didn't like the game. Twin Perfect even talked about why they felt the game was a bit rushed. The director from the previous Silent Hill games actually left before the game's completion, and it was another guy called Kazuhide Nazawa, who, if you actually watched the Imperfect review on this, basically said he had no idea why they made him director of the game because he liked just chilling. He didn't really care. So,
he was like me.
Yeah, he was like the layabout of the Silent Hill team, and they made him director. And he's like, they just pointed to me one day and said, "You're director." That was it.
He basically just wanted to sit around and collect paychecks. That's all he did.
That was pretty much it. He was that guy. And he was like, "You're director now." So he went about and he did it. But what he did do, he developed 2 games at the same time. He got the team to develop Silent Hill 3 and a game that they actually only titled The Room, which then later changed to Silent Hill 4.
No. I will fight you on that.
Go for it.
That is not the case. I'm reading the Silent Hill wiki, and that they actually mention that. They're like, Silent Hill 4, even though rumors stated that 4 was originally meant to be its own game and then got changed to Silent Hill, according to the Silent Hill wiki, which I'm going to take officially because I'm sure, even though it's a wiki, I'm sure it's got some basis. This was always meant to be a Silent Hill game. So I'm going to buy that because I have heard that too, that it actually was intended as an actual Silent Hill title.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you agree with Miguel? Do you agree with me? You can call in on 718-664-9265, or you can tweet #IGG Screw Miguel or hashtag IGG Screw Burhan. Go for it. We've got 11 minutes remaining on the live show, just so you guys know. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us onto the archive afterwards, where we're going to be talking a lot more about Silent Hill 4 and the next games in the franchise series as well at the same time. So my experiences with Silent Hill 3 were pretty much similar to yours, Miguel. It was very hard to handle, but at the same time, it had a very ingrained story. The character Heather, they did something very traumatic to her at the beginning of this game. Now, that is something traumatic with a character I loved. A lot of people didn't like him, you know, when they were talking about the reviews of the games. It was kind of wooden. I liked Harry Mason. Does anyone know what they did to Harry Mason? Anybody?
No.
From what I
Yeah, go on.
From the room?
No, in Silent Hill 3, the initial character.
they killed him off.
Yeah, they killed the guy off. They did to draw her into Silent Hill. They killed him off. The unnamed cult actually killed the guy off, and then got a private dick to basically find Heather and bring her to Silent Hill, so they could give birth to this like deity, this god that they had, this demon, basically. Now, Heather basically she goes through loads of different puzzles. She's not as strong as her father was in the previous games, even James Sunderland, but the way she gets out of situations mostly is she has actually more wit or style, speed, and she has like more cunning in terms of what you see. And the journey in this game is rather simple. She goes from being this fragile girl who lost her father to this strong, dominant woman at the end of this game, because she accepts her role and then tries to find a way to change it. Now, in all intents and purposes, my experience with this game is it's not bad, but I probably would put Silent Hill 1 and 2 before this game. I think, in standing, the other two are the far better games than this. So when they actually introduced this one into the HD collection, I was kind of head scratching on this. Now, let's segue onto that one and go Silent Hill 4, The Room. So who wants to touch base on this one?
I will mention some of my experiences with Silent Hill 4, The Room. This was actually probably one of the last Silent Hills that I played. I wasn't a big fan of it. I understood that I kind of appreciated for what they were trying to do something a little different, in the sense that you weren't stuck in Silent Hill, you were more stuck in the room. It had a very comparing it to like Jacob's Ladder, and it actually had a lot of influences from a lot of American horror movies, like Jacob's Ladder, and it had like The Shining and stuff like that. So that part was kind of cool, but it just didn't feel the same.
What about you, Zach? What was your experience with the game?
I thought it felt different, and when I first played it, I didn't like it. But as I played it a little more, I kind of did like it. I remember there was this one thing in one of the. It's been so long since I played these games, because I think I played them all on Xbox. It's been so long since I played my Xbox. But I remember there was this one, I was down in, a sewer or some back-ass room of somewhere, and I remember there was, this, almost like a gigantic, snake-type thing, coming, out of these vents in the wall or something, and I remember, hitting it, and it reacted to it. So I thought you could kill it, and I kept hitting it for 10 minutes. So okay, I guess you can actually kill this thing. But it definitely took a different turn. But I actually appreciate the turn that it took about being trapped in this room and all that kind of stuff. And I really liked that. I personally it might not be the best game, but I like when things actually take a different turn and do different things.
What about you, Miguel? I know I sort of rant a little bit about one.
No, I'm the opposite. I actually really like this game, and for the exact reasons that Zack said. I appreciated that it went in a different direction. I didn't like the direction that 3 went into, basically taking it more into what I thought more of an emphasis on action. I liked the fact that it brought this claustrophobic sense of fear with the room aspect, because I remember walking around that room and just being unnerved by just the quiet of it, not being able to see what's behind you and stuff, and especially once the demon aspect came in and the room kept getting, possessed slowly but surely, that got to me really, really good. In terms of the main story, I appreciated it. I liked that it was more of a sidequel of sorts to Silent Hill 2. It brought up a lot of the side character, one of the main side characters, which was some convicted criminal, the convicted murderer, and you were going down the path of how his story tied into the game in general. It didn't needlessly connect itself to James Sunderland's storyline, which I thought was very finite. It tied up pretty well, and it didn't feel like it latched itself onto the Silent Hill 1-3 storyline. It did its own thing while still being associated with Silent Hill, but I appreciated the controls. I liked that they went more with an analog kind of control. I liked that they put more emphasis on melee combat, which I always thought kind of was something that most survival horror games up until that point didn't really expand into. And I'll admit, the only one aspect really that I really got on my nerves was the menu system, the inventory system in there, the whole having only a finite amount of items to put into and having to go back and forth between the room and the game to kind of put away necessary items. I thought that was really necessary and really killed the pace of the game for me. Other than that, I really liked it. I wish I could have finished it, but by the time I was borrowing a copy from a friend of mine, and he left the area that I was living in, so I really never got a chance to finish it. And this was right around the time, like I said, the Silent Hill games were boosting up in price, so I never was able to get a copy of my own. But I really enjoyed this game. I really appreciate it, and I really wish that the series had continued on like that.
The fun thing about this game as well, and I'll touch base basically on what Miguel and Dan was saying about this. When I was a kid, I used to, if I got scared of ghosts and darkness, because I used to get scared rather easy. I was a very fragile little boy. I used to hide in my covers. When you just think that you're safe in your covers, nothing's going to hurt you. In the room, it takes that premise and it turns it on its head. Your room is supposed to be your safe. It's supposed to be the place where you know you're safe. If the whole world out there, you've got crime, you've got people killing one another, you've got bad things happening, your room is the safest place you can be. This takes that and turns it into something invasive. The room itself becomes an entity where you're trapped. In a sense. I know you can venture out of it, but you're not literally venturing out. You're at the point where there's this nasty supernatural thing going on that's trapping you in your room and you can't leave. I was scared shit playing this game. Because once it did that, I couldn't sleep a wink. I literally had to, I went to bed. I remember I was sharing a room with my brother at the time. If I heard a little bit of noise, I would crap myself. To the point where I left my light on for a couple of days because I couldn't bear to be in this way. It took somewhere where I was safe and it turned it into somewhere where I was afraid of, because my mind runs wild, especially when you're a child, you see stuff like this. Now, for those who don't know the story, it's the fourth installment of the Silent Hill Survival series, and the story goes basically where it's not set in a town of Silent Hill, it's set in a fictional town of South Ashfield, and follows Henry Townsend as he attempts to escape his locked-down apartment during the course of the game. He explores a series of supernatural worlds and finds himself in conflict with the undead serial killer, who's basically, the story behind this was, the serial killer who's in this game, the entity, he was a kid that was adopted by the occult and used to perform certain rituals to bring this demon that they want raised from the dead back. And by performing the rituals, he corrupts his own soul at the same time. So when he eventually, he kills loads of people. When he eventually dies, he becomes a spirit that locks these rooms down and ends up killing, the people inside. So it unofficially, it has a connection to Silent Hill, but not in the way that the other two games do. So Travis, what was your experience with this game? You said that you haven't played it before, did you?
No, I've actually played this before,
okay.
And to tell you the truth, I didn't care for this a whole lot. I just thought it was kind of strange how they were playing how this game was developed in a different sense, that the character was trapped. Because the other games, the main character, it was more of a free roaming type thing. This one felt a little more enclosed, as it were. And maybe that's because that's what they're going for, especially with a name like Silent Hill 4: The Room. It just felt like the walls were kind of caving in a little bit for me. But for the most part, it was a game. I did like it. But there was something about it. I just didn't really like a whole lot about it. I just can't exactly put my finger on it. It just didn't really suit my fancy.
Okie dokie. And Nick, what was your impressions of the game?
I actually didn't buy the game. I thought about it, but a lot of the PC gaming magazines were giving it really bad reviews. And after reading more about it, I can see why it just doesn't come across like a great game, in my opinion.
How so?
It's just I guess it's just the premise of the whole, you get locked in a room, in this area, and then you go into the other dimension to defeat the spirit. And especially with what the canon of the whole Silent Hill is about, it just didn't seem to match it, and it just didn't hold my interest.
See, actually, I would like to argue that because I never thought about what Burhan just said made me appreciate this game 10 times more than I ever did. I never put together the fact that you're right, that being able to go into your covers and be in your room is this safety net, this place where you can feel fine about yourself, and it's compromising that, and I think that it was brilliant. And me even liking this game before, I would never even thought of that. So
it's one of those things as well that you look at it, and as people, I think having a conversation with Tarman, Rob's other half, about this sort of situation, her mind tends to run wild when she sees certain things, and I'm the same. If I can watch a horror movie, and as soon as I go to bed, if I hear a slight noise, I freaking go like crazy. So I don't tend to watch something that's very secluding. Do you know what I mean? If it's happening on a space station, I know that nothing's going to get me. If it's happening in a horror house or something like that, I know it's not going to get me. But after playing The Room, I was afraid to be in my own room because it just hit so close to home, because it took something from me that I was a safe haven in a sense. But yeah, it's exactly that, Zach. And I appreciate the game for that. I think a lot of the bad reviews that this game has been given were for the fact that I think they compared it to the other two Silent Hill games. And they really, really shouldn't have. This game is very wooden. Because he doesn't really do much. He's like, I don't know if it was badly written or if it was badly acted. That's one of the main things in terms of his character. But in terms of the game itself, it's an awesome game. The way that it was portrayed really, really scares the shit out of me. And also the fact that you're battling ghosts. These aren't like creatures that are tangible like in the other Silent Hill games. You had to get away from these creatures. You couldn't battle this fight. You had to. The only way that you could actually defeat like the main antagonist in this game, is by I think you had to reunite him with his main body. Is that right?
His umbilical cord.
Yes. In order to make him whole and actually defeat him. So it was a very disturbing game, and I loved it. I thought myself that it was. I wouldn't consider it the best game, but I would actually consider it better than Silent Hill 3. Now, we're going to be going on to territory that probably a few of you don't know about, but we'll try. After Silent Hill 4 The Room, Team Silent was disbanded, and it was amalgamated in Konami. And reason being that they really felt that Silent Hill 3 was the closure. Silent Hill 4 was made because Konami wanted the game, wanted more Silent Hill games, and they still wanted more Silent Hill games. So what they did was, they ended up transferring the property over to the United States, and it went to a studio. One of the first studios that got a hold of this was Climax Studios, which ended up becoming Double Helix Games. Now, yes, they are responsible for the shitfest of the Silent Hill HD collection, which we'll go into in a little bit. But let's talk about the first game in that series, which was called Silent Hill Origins. Now, Silent Hill Origins was released on the PlayStation Portable and then on the PlayStation 2. This game is infamous for not making any fucking sense because of the fact that it has everything that this game was supposed to explain was already explained in Silent Hill 1. And
yeah.
The fact that this was even done, it also confused a lot of people as well at the same time. Now, we'll talk about the plot line on this one. Silent Hill Origins was the prequel to the first game, and it took several years. It's 7 years before the events of the first game. And basically, there was a driver who's driving past the town of Silent Hill. His name's Travis Grady, and he swerves his vehicle, avoiding hitting a girl on the road. Concerned, he follows her into the town, losing track. He stumbles upon a burning house. He rescues a young, charred girl from the fire, and then loses consciousness outside. He encounters, and then basically he has the ability now to go into an other world, where he encounters a physician called Michael Kaufman. He denies treating any new patients recently. Licensed practical nurse Lisa Garland, who tells him that the girl is named by Alyssa Gillespie. Now, what's happened, Alyssa's mother, Darla Gillespie, was present at the scene of the fire. Now, Alyssa Gillespie, what happened was, she was spawned into two. She basically, they were using her to give birth to this demon. And they spawned, and she ended up like branching off into two entities. Now, the one thing about this game was he nearly hit a girl on the road, which means there were 3 entities, 3 girls, right? Which made no sense. It kind of clustered with the original version. Now, Travis gradually collects pieces of an unknown object, periodically encounters an unburned Alyssa, who does not answer any of his questions, and he unlocks repressed childhood memories of his mother that has been... Now, I'm pointing at this as well. This game, every Silent Hill after Silent Hill, The Room, the main protagonist for some reason loses memories about a tragic incident. So what did they do? They took Silent Hill 2 and they cut and pasted it all over these next games. So word of warning for you guys out there. Now, basically, you have 3 endings to this game. You have the good ending, you have the bad ending, and you also have like the alien ending and stuff like that as well. Now let's go into thoughts about this game. Xander, have you ever played this?
I haven't, and I'm going to tell you why, and you guys are probably going to laugh about this. I really did not like the character you played as. I was like, this dude looks like Larry the Cable Guy in Silent Hill. I just couldn't find a connection with him. I couldn't find. I mean, like I said, he was a truck driver, and maybe I'm being like shallow, but I was just kind of like I just couldn't connect with him. And I believe that was the first Silent Hill on the PSP and ported on the PS2 as well, right?
Yeah, It originally was released on the PSP, and for some reason, even though people hated it, they decided to port it on the PS2. So
they were doing that a lot.
Yeah, go on, Xander.
I would say they were doing that a lot with. As I said, they were doing that a lot with some PSP games. Was re-releasing them on PS2, but yeah, I never played it.
It's so weird as well. The scores on this, you could tell that they're exaggerated. It was given a 7.8 out of 10, 7.2 out of 10. It was given a B by OneUp.com, a 7.1 out of 10. This game is not worth shit. I don't know why they're giving it such high ratings, because it makes no sense. Now, Climax, by the way, was a UK studio before they ended up merging and becoming Double Helix. Now, with this game, myself, I played it, I couldn't get into it. I actually put it down in the midst of it because it made no sense. One, I couldn't get my head around Origins game when Silent Hill 1 for me was the starting point. The studio developers actually stated that what they did was they took everything that mattered in Silent Hill 1 and they tried to expand on that. Bollocks. They tried to redo this. Basically what they did was they tried to redo Silent Hill 1 and try to elaborate what was already made clear. When you do that, you confuse shit up. Seriously. They needed to do about 6 different playthroughs of the fucking game before they actually understood what was going on. So, Travis, have you played Origins?
I have none, I'm afraid.
Oh, you were saved. Nick, do you have any impressions of Origins?
I've not played it, and I'm a big handheld player, but it seems to me more like they were probably doing it to get the handheld audience into, getting into a series where they might get a console and go out and buy more of the games. That's just what it came across like to me.
Very much so. What about you, Zach?
I haven't played. I've seen it so many times, and I think it's always been like $20, which is kind of just out of my price limit for a game that's a little older. But I will say, the idea of this pissed me off so much of bringing the PSP thing to the PS2 because they didn't do that with Crisis Core, and I know it has nothing to do with Hill, but I'm hoping that would happen and it didn't, and they brought this shitty-ass thing, I guess, over to the PS2, and they didn't bring Crisis Core, so whatever.
I know, I didn't understand that either. Miguel, what about you?
This game broke my heart. It really did, because I remember when they first announced this. No. I got a story behind this, man. I remember when this game was first announced, and I followed the news of this game religiously. I was so excited because that was when that actually was right around the time that I was playing 2, and when they first announced it, I was so excited because I'm like, yes. I had a PSP at the time, I still do, but I was like, yes, a Silent Hill game on the PSP. I'm so there. And I remember I didn't buy this game just because this was during my college years and I was real broke. So I rented it from Blockbuster at the time. And I remember playing this game, and to me, story-wise, it felt like fan fiction. It felt like somebody who had written a Silent Hill script, their own like Silent Hill fan fiction, and then got the chance to make it canon. It had a lot of that feel. It had bits and pieces of the original one. It had a Pyramid Head knockoff in it. It just, to me, just felt, it didn't feel like it fit into the actual canon of the series. Like I said, it just felt like somebody wanted to make a backstory to the first game and just threw in a bunch of stuff from the previous titles. I believe that's what Yahtzee even said, that Origins in his own mind felt like a fan game.
Yeah, it was literally, if you get like someone on a fan forum write Silent Hill fan fiction porn, and this would probably be it. The thing is, they had a character.
Silent Hill?
Yeah, they basically had a character in it called the Butcher, who was Pyramid Head. All intents and purposes, he was Pyramid Head.
And can I elaborate on one last thing?
Yeah.
One of the things I think we never really elaborated on in our previous games was the concept of the two worlds.
Yeah.
Which was a big theme in the Silent Hill games. For those of you that don't know, periodically when you're playing as a character in the games, you play in the regular real world, for lack of better terms, and then in certain situations you fall into what's called the other world, which is this very rusted, very dirty, very grimy world that it's almost like a good and evil thing. And I think Silent Hill 1 probably worked with it the most because it was playing on the whole, is this real or is this not? Because you'd have certain periods where your character would kind of pass out and wake up in the real world from the other world. So it kind of played on whether or not this real world was real or it was just a figment of your psychosis going out of whack. In Origins, they took out the randomness of it because it would come like it would be spontaneous. You'd be playing a game as a character, then it would just turn into the other world, and then it would turn back, and you never knew what was going on.
It blurred
in Origins,
the lines.
They took that.
Yeah.
No, in Origins, they completely took that out and made it a gameplay mechanic to where if let's say you're playing in the real world and you meet upon a door. Well, it would give you the access to be able to transfer between the real world and the other world through use of mirrors. All this did was make for more backtracking. Like I said, you'd get to a door in the real world that's locked, and they would force you to go back into the other world, go back to that same spot, find like a key or a lever or something, go back into the real world, and then you can continue the game from there. It was useless, busy work, and I hated it. And I hated this game, and to me, this is what killed the series from then on, and I haven't played another game in the series since, unfortunately.
And
like I said, it broke my heart. It really did.
Speaking of shit, let's go on to the next game that they produced.
Wait, one last thing I want to say.
Go for it.
I will say one aspect of the game that I will give them credit for that I think they just really did poorly was the concept of destructible weapons, where they didn't give you a set pistol or a set pipe or a set golf club. You would basically just scavenge your weapons from what was around you and have to use that in certain situations. Good idea. Unfortunately, they left so many weapons around that basically were there to clutter up your inventory that you never felt a sense of fear when going against these monsters because you had like 17 planks of wood and 14 pipes and it was ridiculous when you would get like a sword and it would break in like 7 swings.
Did you know how many weapons you could hold in the inventory?
Infinite?
70.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the concept of breakable weapons are fine, but 70 weapons? You could go through the whole bloody game just destroying everything.
This is the one where I think the Silent Hill 4 inventory system, the very limited inventory system that they had, that would have actually worked better in this game. If it limited you to just, okay, you have these destructible weapons, but you can only have access to seven of them instead of 7D.
Yeah.
I think that would have worked better in this game. As such, it used the older style where you could just basically stack as many weapons on it as possible, and you ended up with, 8 TVs and 27 golf clubs, stuff like that. It made the game really hard to play. Like I said, there's so much wrong with this game that it was just so infuriating because I really wanted a portable Silent Hill game because I love survival horror games, and this just was not it.
Limited inventory is always shit. I remember in Mario RPG it was shit. It's always going to be shit. I fucking hate limited inventory.
The thing about it is, I think they need to find a fine line between it. I don't mind you holding 70 odd items in RPG. That's fine. But not in a game where the whole premise of the game is that you're supposed to be shit scared. Having a limited inventory on a game like survival horror.
No, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, you turn it into
correct.
Doom, where you might as well have handed him a BFG 5000 and just had him mow through the fucking zombies. But
yes, you're right.
yeah, it's a whole different world. But yeah, let's go on to Silent Hill Homecoming now, which is the 6th installment. And now what happened was Climax ended up merging with another studio to become Double Helix Games. They developed this new one, which was on July 11, 2007, by Konami at the E3 press conference. It was originally entitled Silent Hill 5. Now, the entry follows the journey of Alex Shepard, a soldier returning from war, from his hometown of Shepherd's Glen, where he finds out the town is in disarray and his younger brother is missing. As he continues to search for his younger brother, he discovers more about the Order of Silent Hill. Right, the first thing they did wrong here, the cult was nameless. They gave them a name. They shouldn't have done that because that loses all the mystique. Because originally they weren't supposed to have a name because you wouldn't know who they were. They were supposed to have that anonymity in a sense. Now, it was released on the September 30th, 2008 in North America, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and also Microsoft Windows version was released in North Central South America in November 6th through Valve Steam's digital content delivery service. And all versions were released simultaneously in Europe. Now, let's talk about the experience of this game. Let's start with you, Zach. What was your experience for Homecoming?
You know, I actually like this game, and I'm going to tell you why I like this game. Well, first of all, when I got this, it was clearanced out at like Best Buy for like $5. So when something's only that cheap, whether you hate it or like it, it really doesn't matter, I guess.
Very true.
I will say this. For some reason, this game really reminded me of Condemned. And I love Condemned. I love the first and the second Condemned. I think they're fucking amazing games. And for some reason, like, not necessarily anything, like, I guess, like, it's kind of like the controls, and I guess kind of like the atmosphere really reminded me of Condemned, and that's why I really liked it. I mean, maybe it had nothing going for it in the Silent Hill way, but I enjoyed it, primarily probably because of how much I enjoyed the Condemned series.
But, okay. Miguel, what about you?
Like I said, I avoided this game. I'm gonna repeat a lot of what I've heard about this game. I've heard that honestly, as a game itself, it's not bad. It just had no business being called Silent Hill. Like it just all the stuff in the game that goes Silent Hill feels kind of like the same way it felt in Origins, where it felt like fan service. Like in the game, you have this Pyramid Head knockoff called the Boogeyman, which I have no idea. I'd have to look that up. And one of my favorite lines from a review was Yahtzee when he reviewed Silent Hill Homecoming, where he talked about the nurses from Silent Hill 2 popping up. And he's like, why is nurses the game? The nurses represented James Sunderland's sexual frustration in Silent Hill 2. The main character's looking for his little brother, who I doubt was a D-cup.
Oh, God.
Why are the chesty nurses in Silent Hill Homecoming?
Also,
they're hot, though. I'd do them.
Pyramid Head is actually in this. Believe it or not. So that makes no sense either. Pyramid Head actually...
Yeah, they're grasping at straws at that point.
Yeah. The one thing is characterizations. I think what they did was they got the guy who had no idea what the fuck Silent Hill was about. It's like, ooh, it would be cool if we had this character in there, and they just threw them in there. The problem with this game as well, it was kind of a slow build, and then just at the midpoint, they then just went crazy. You know, it went literally. It turned into Saw, then it turned into Hostel. You know, they had the guy's mum strapped up, and he had to kill her by shooting her in the head. Otherwise, she was going to get pulled apart by a machine. No reason why.
Can I say a bit of commentary here on this game?
Go for it.
I think the biggest problem that I've always had with the later Silent Hill games has to do with the American developers, and it's something that I've always stuck to in terms of my premise on horror. The Japanese have a different way of pulling off horror than the American do, and Silent Hill is a perfect example of that. The first three Silent Hill games really dealt with the psychological aspect. It didn't throw fear at you. It played on what you couldn't see, what you couldn't understand. There were layers to it. You know, the whole aspect of the darkness and the radio in the first game. You know, the psychological overtones of the second game. You know, it really played on more than just jump scares and just grotesque imagery. Whereas the later games, that's all they are, as you've just said right now. I mean, it goes from a slow build and all of a sudden it turns into a Hostel movie or a Saw movie. And to me, I think that's the biggest problem I have with the later Silent Hill games, is that you're giving it to guys that not only don't understand the Silent Hill series, they don't understand horror in general. You know, it's very much an Americanizing of a game that really, I think, is killed by that. I think you need people that can understand it. You know, you need to put a guy in charge of this game that understands really in slow build horror And clearly the developers of this game and the other one, when we'll get to that, don't understand that.
Very much so. Xander, did you have an experience with this game?
I thought the cover looked really cool, but I never played the game.
We actually parodied the cover.
with me and Travis?
Yeah. They actually parodied that. I did that on the fact that the cover did look amazing. Game, not so much. Travis, did you have any experience with the game?
Actually, I do not. But it's amazing how you guys were drawing comparisons here, saying that the game was parts that were Saw inspired. It's interesting you should say that because Konami has released a couple of Saw games, and I just thought that was pretty interesting how those games were released, and yet we had Silent Hill Homecoming. It had scenes in the game that played out just like something from Saw or Hostel. I thought that was odd.
Yep, it's a very weird thing that they tried to do, and the problem is as well. Again, they did the whole James Sunderland approach. He doesn't remember anything that happens. He didn't remember anything, and he's supposed to have a teaching lesson where he forgot that his brother accidentally killed himself and ended up becoming the sacrifice for the town, and it's horrendous. Nick, have you got any?
So lame.
Have you got any perceptions?
I basically I heard more about Silent Hill when 4 came out, and every single review about Silent Hill that I read was always bad, so I always avoided the games. And even reading about Silent Hill Homecoming even further, it just seems way too depressing. Almost like it just meant to be one big major downer overall.
Yeah, it's what you'll
find. It just has no
find.
appeal.
What you find with a lot of these Americanized Silent Hill games, they tend to copy and paste. It's literally, let's take the story from the first and then copy and paste. So let's move on from that, guys, onto Silent Hill Shattered Memories. We're going to only touch this very quickly.
Whoa, Shattered Memories?
Shattered Memories. It's the Wii version of Silent Hill 1.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, they said it was a reimagined version, but instead it's an entirely different game. What happens is you're in a psychiatry office, you're playing Harry Mason's daughter, and you have all these perceptions and memories of him that you think were him. The layout, the streets, everything that happens in this game didn't really happen in the first game, and the enemies aren't really that scary because they're not really enemies. You don't have to kill them, you just have to escape them. The game is surrounded by puzzles and certain things that if you do something in the game, it gives you an ending, a certain ending. Like, there's one ending which is supposed to be the true ending where Harry Mason's a good dad. There's another ending that makes Harry Mason out to be like a pervert, and that's if you spend time looking at a calendar of a woman who looks sexy, and there's another one where he's basically a serial beater and ends up beating her mum up and stuff if you do something else wrong. And it's all basically by how you answer the questions from the psychiatrist. And this was supposed to be a way to introduce the franchise to the Wii, which distorted controls due to the way the game doesn't even make sense, due to the fact this game is not even a survival horror, it's more of a psychological thriller, didn't really help it. Now, Xander, you've played the Wii version of the game? Is that correct?
Briefly, yeah.
What turned you off?
And well, it was just the controls, and yeah, I mean, I like survival horror in the sense that, like we were talking about earlier, about using like primitive tools for survival, but I mean, this game kind of took everything out, and when you have shoddy controls and you don't really have a way to fight back, it's just going to piss you off. And that's what it did to me.
It was one of those where it was they did give you a certain understanding on how the game works, and they kind of in order to introduce these new mechanics that they put into the game, they removed everything that made a Silent Hill game Silent Hill. You know, this wasn't run for your life anymore. It became, let's see what I need to go through, and it became too clustered in a sense. Travis, have you played Shattered Memories?
I have not, but I did watch the Game Grumps. They actually did an entire series on it, and to be honest, I think it looks pretty good. I think I'd like to get me a copy of it.
Okay, Miguel?
I can respect a lot of the changes they made because it does make sense. You know, the whole running away from things. I think it fits more into the game than in the third game, which I had an issue with. Honestly, and this might be a nitpick, my biggest problem with it is they substituted the Rust world with this weird ice world, and that's not Silent Hill. And I think that was a really bad decision that really, in my opinion, kind of defeated the purpose of it being a Silent Hill game. You might as well have just made it its own game. That Rust world, that other world that I was talking about, is a hallmark of the series. And if you're going to talk about if you're going to say that, oh, this game is a reimagining, fine, but you still got to hold on to certain cores of the game, and that, to me, is a core of the game.
Another core that
you really can't change.
Another core they didn't hold on to was the cult. They were nowhere to be seen. So
yeah, that to me bothered me, and that's unfortunate. Because honestly, I was okay with them doing a reimagining of the first Silent Hill game, you know, doing it differently than it was, but they changed way too much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like the game as is, fine. To me, out of all the other games that have come out post Team Silent, this one to me does not deserve the Silent Hill name at all.
Yeah, they said it. Twin Perfect said it best. It's an okay game or Silent Hill game. You've just taken a character outside. Said it best.
Did you just Twin Perfect it breast? I heard an R from there.
No, I said best.
You sure about that, Burhan? If you were
He's thinking about those nurses right now. Miguel.
I am. I'm thinking about having sex with nurses. I need a pyramid head hat and just like bang them.
Yeah.
So, Zach, what about you?
You know, I haven't played this one, but I actually thought that this was just like a visual upgrade, and now that I know it's not, I guess actually I might watch the Grumps play it. I don't really watch the Grumps, but I don't know. This is actually kind of really letting me down that I thought it was an upgrade and it's a whole different fucking story. But, you know what?
It makes no sense story-wise because Heather, she saw her dad dead, and in this, she doesn't even know who her dad is. She's like,
okay,
you know, my dad died in a car crash. It makes no sense. They've just thrown a lot of stuff together. It's like they've taken these characters and like thrown them at a wall and like, this is what we're going to put in our game. Let's call it Silent Hill Fuck Whore.
Yeah, try to get money out of it. You know, one thing that I was going to say that I think is really funny is how you talked about in the beginning how the people that originally made up Team Silent were a bunch of people who were kind of fuck ups, and they were like, well, whatever, you go over here and do this. Yeah. And they make like these really great things, and then they have these other people who I'm guessing probably weren't fuck ups, and then they try to come in and make this shit better, and all they do is fuck the entire series. Exactly. So it's like, well, yeah, and I think it's what's up.
I was going to say, I'm going to call you out on that because I just looked at Double Helix's track record of games. Let me bring out some of their more infamous titles. We have G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. We have Green Lantern: Rise of the Manhunters, Battleship, and the upcoming Killer Instinct game for the Xbox One. So I can't really say with good that these were not a bunch of screw-ups if you played any of those games I just noted.
Yeah. Battleship. They took even worse and had them try to improve something that people who actually got together made gold, and these people just fucked it up even worse.
Yeah.
In other words, they tried to polish a turd.
Yes. And they tried polishing it hard to the point where the turd literally just was non-existent, and it was just a scabby hand instead. These guys, it was terrible. Let's go on to the next one, which was, this was their swan song in a sense in terms of consoles, because they wanted to show that they could make a Silent Hill game that wasn't a Silent Hill game that people could shit over. Guess what? It passed on to Vatra Games, who made Silent Hill Downpour. So they took it from Double Helix.
Oh, God.
They gave it to Patra Games. So, Xander, because you just said that, tell us about Silent Hill Downpour.
I'll tell you about Downpour. I didn't play it, and the reason why is because they had freaking Korn doing the freaking soundtrack. I'm just like, what the hell? I was like, is this Silent Hill, or am I watching the Underworld? I mean, nothing against people that are listening to like Korn, nothing against Korn, but that's not Silent Hill. Korn's for like Underworld. You know, that's for watching vampires fight werewolves in a new metal world, you know. Not Silent Hill, you know.
I agree with you. That music basically is the harmonies in these games, and it kind of ruins the game in general when you use a certain band. Like, oh, I'm a fan of Korn. Let's get them to do a Silent Hill game. Come on, yay! I like Korn, but they're not Silent. Yeah, go on, Travis.
I'm sorry about that. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was already saying, putting Korn in there as the band for the soundtrack, that sounds so out of place. I mean, it's like putting the Beatles inside of a Mario game. You know what I mean?
That's pretty.
No, I can see where they're coming from. There's a lot of Korn songs that are very twisted and very, like, there's one song about Jonathan Davis talking about how his father, like, raped him or whatever. I mean, I can understand where they're coming from and doing something like that, but, I mean, the fact of does it fit the mood or not, I mean, that's a whole different thing.
Well, if you listen to the old Silent Hill games, they were never rocky and edgy in terms of the music. It was all very more subtle in terms of the way that they actually composed these songs. Now, Korn's not subtle. As you just said, Davis sang a song about his dad raping his ass. That doesn't seem subtle for me.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is I understand how they could try to put a twisted game with a twisted band. That's the thing I can put together. I get what you're saying. It's not any of the music that's ever been there before, but I'm just saying I can understand where they're coming from.
Very true. So let's go on to your experience, Zach. What was your experience with the game?
You know, Downpour I never got to play, and you know, as much as I did play the other one. What was the other one with me in the picture? I can't remember the name of it. Homecoming. Yeah. I did play that one because, like I told you, I got a clearance out at Best Buy, and this one I never got to play. And you know, every time I was going to buy it, and I could never find it cheaper than $20, and I was like, well, I'm not paying you $20 because I've never heard a good thing about this, so I never got to play it, unfortunately.
Miguel, what's your perceptions on this, Miguel?
Say that it's worth mentioning that the developers of this, Vatra Games, only had one other title under their belt before getting their hands on the Silent Hill franchise. It was a game called Russian Attack Expatriate. I've never heard of this game. I haven't heard whether it's good or bad, but go from some little what looks like a side-scroller game. In fact, it's actually a PlayStation Network / Xbox Live Arcade title. To go from that to a Silent Hill game, I'm not surprised that this game didn't do well. And there are two aspects of the game that really bug me. The first one is having multiple people in the town with you that you interact with really kills a lot of the claustrophobia and really kills a lot of the fear of it being your own central adventure, you know. It goes back to what I talked about with the whole light world, dark world thing, you know, whether or not this was actually happening or there was just a figment of your imagination. When you bring other people into it and they're experiencing the same things you are, you lose a lot of that fear. It's no longer really that much of a survival horror anymore because you've taken the survival aspect out of it. The other aspect, and keep in mind, I'm remembering what Phalis did in his video. There's at some point where you have to be chased by this giant red ball of light for some reason, and I have no idea what that's about. That to me just is 100% not Silent Hill related. It fits in just about as much as the Korn, the Korn soundtrack. So nothing about this game really feels at all admirable to me. So I'm going to continue pretending this game doesn't exist.
Okay, well, it has something associated with Korn, because there is kiddie rape in this. Basically, the main character, Murphy Pendleton, makes a deal with a corrupt officer by the name of George Sewell to gain access to a sequestered pedophile by the name of Patrick Napier, and murder him. Now, the guy basically raped and killed his son. So what he did, he found a way to get into prison. He got into prison and killed the guy. Now, again, it has that Silent Hill 2 thing where he forgets the reason why he's in Silent Hill, and he's there to come to terms with something because he's being chased by a police officer by the name of Anne Cunningham, who's after him, right? Now, the whole twist in this goes through the whole Silent Hill trying to fight monsters. You can only carry melee weapons, which are scarce items. You don't have many bullets and stuff like that in this game. And he's being chased after he randomly reacts to other characters in order to do certain things to allow you to either get a good ending or a bad ending. And then it turns out that he's not the protagonist of the game. The protagonist ends up being the supporting character who's going after you, Anne Cunningham. And that you find out at the end that Murphy killed her dad. Or he basically said no to killing her father, and that George, the corrupt officer, basically shoots her dad, kills her dad, and then blames it on Murphy. And no matter what the ending is, you can either go to an ending where he's in the electric chair getting nearly, getting fried to a crisp for doing it, or he basically ends up saying sorry and crying his eyes out and stuff to her. Or there's another one where he ends up basically getting killed by her. Now, there's this big giant, I would call it, the thing's in a raincoat. Basically, even though it's not Pyramid Head, this thing moves like Pyramid Head. He's like I wouldn't call him a butcher. What was he called? He's like a
Boogeyman.
Boogeyman, yeah. And he ends up being the same thing. It's not as great as the game should be. It's copy and paste again. And it's literally, this is Silent Hill 2 all over again. But they added an extra little twist that the character that you're playing isn't actually the character that's supposed to be redeemed in Silent Hill. It's, it ends up being the other person who's chasing you. Who's like the antagonist, in a sense.
Sounds like a bad episode of that show, Prison Break.
Yeah, it pretty much is that. So, moving on from that, guys, is there anything anyone else wants to say about this before we move on to touch on the HD collection? And then we've got one final one, which is Book and Breeze, and then we can talk about the future of the franchise. No? Okay.
We're not going to even discuss the movies?
We are. HD collection. Okay. We're going to we touched on this briefly about the mechanics, the reason why this game didn't work. Miguel, do you want to talk about it a little bit? Have you played the HD collection?
No, I thought about it, but then I heard you guys saying how bad it was, and I think I'm going to avoid it. I think it's unfortunate because when you do a re-release of a game, there's two expectations you have, and there's some expectations you have, and one of them is that whatever problems with the game originally were going to be fixed. When you can't even rely on that, you've lost a big chunk of expectation right there. And to hear that they went back and they redid most of the voices and redid a lot of the dialogue, really for no other reason as, hey, we should change this to make it sound different, really is upsetting. There are changes I can understand. Like, one of my favorite re-releases was Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, which redid a lot of the cutscenes from the first game to give them more animation, to really emphasize it's basically to flesh them out, because those original PS1 animations were pretty stiff by old fare. So I was okay with that. And honestly, and I have to bring this up back, that they took away Ling's English sounding accent and gave her more of an American accent.
Oh, that
yeah.
English.
Yeah, they had to do that. That was for PC purposes. I can understand too, but to go back and change the game that so is built behind its performances and to completely change them for no reason whatsoever, except for you want to be cheap and don't want to bring back the original cast, I think is really a disservice to the original games, and I'm going to stick with those original games. I still have a PS2, so if I want to play those games, I'll just find a copy of Silent Hill 2 laying around.
Yeah. So, did you have a chance to play this?
I haven't, but I really like the idea of HD remakes for a lot of reasons. I think it makes things I think like a lot of HD remakes in this day and age to get trophies and achievements and stuff. I know that doesn't make or break a game, but I think it definitely adds things to it. And the fact that they were taking this and they were making it, so people could enjoy it in HD because as much as I love all games, graphics never make or break a game to me, but if I can see something in HD, I would like to see it in HD, I mean, some HD looks better than real life, so I mean, why the hell not see it like that? But the fact that they fucked this up so badly from, first of all, Konami, second of all, such a big series, it's like, how the hell did this happen? I don't know. I didn't got to play it. I know there's a video on YouTube where I think it compares the actors from the original Silent Hill 2 to the HD remake of Silent Hill 2, and you can see how horrible the remake thing is. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't get to play it, but these are the kind of things that piss me off. This is NES shit. This is really 1980s shit. They fuck up stuff like this. This is not 2013 or whatever year this came out in. It should not have been fucked up. It should have been perfect, and it should have been the upgrade that everybody wanted.
And there's loads of stuff. There's like texture problems, like Mary's eye being replaced by the texture of her teeth, psychedelic lake water for some weird reason. The logo looks terrible. They've got like the sea and fog. You defeat enemies and solve puzzles as you progress deeper and deeper into the story. As usual, that it shows exactly what they've changed and what's wrong with the game. There's missing fog. There's awful water. Odd breathing. Like he sounds like he's fucking having a heart attack. Looping radio noises. Missed sound effects. And extreme lagging.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is that I think some people, for example, when they bring something from the Xbox to the 360, or from the 360, which will eventually happen to the Xbox One, I feel like these people who are developing are like, our system is so much more advanced than the last one, everything should work perfect. But the fact of the matter is, the games were designed to work on a different piece of hardware. It's like And so it's not exactly that easy to convert, and I think they might just be like, oh, just bring it over here, and our thing's so much more powerful, it'll be fucking 10 times better anyway. And they end up screwing it up because they're just arrogant assholes.
Well, I'm going to basically touch on the God of War HD collection at the moment as well, and talk about the company that was responsible for that. There we go. HD collections. Because I didn't have that on me. But the company responsible for the God of War series, they basically did a thing where they actually reverse engineered the disc. So they never had like the raw files of the game. They took the game and they reverse engineered it so that they could actually produce the same game, everything that worked. They updated the file to a PC. And then tweaked everything to make sure it was working, and then layered it towards the PS3 and the Xbox 360, upscaled everything. They literally said they barely did anything to the graphics and textures apart from, made sure that it would look better on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, layer mapped it, and they made it look amazing. Now, what Double Hijinks Studios did, which is the name, I believe, they were Double Helix Studios, and then they split off into Hijinks Studios. They decided what we're going to do is take a raw version of the game that wasn't debugged, that wasn't produced in the first place, and we're going to use that as our template. So you're not only dealing with bugs from trying to engineer it onto new consoles, you're dealing with the bugs that were there in the first place, that were QA tested and removed. Then they try to, the freaking head of it, when I'm going to basically write my own script and I want to try and do an ambitious project where it's rewritten and it sounds everything as towards the way that I wanted to do it. And then they tried to blame Guy Seehee because he said everything was mismanaged. They never asked him or any of the other voice actors to return. They just assumed that they could use rights to it. Then Mary Elizabeth Glynn, Troy Baker, and Fisali Leneur basically said that James did not own, Guy Seehee did not own James's voice. Well, there's a thing, unless you... Yeah, go on, Dana.
I was about to say, I actually met Elizabeth McGlynn. I actually met her.
How was she?
She was pretty cool. I met her at a convention.
Awesome. Well, on this project, I would say I'm not going to hold any grudges towards her independently, but there is one thing that her and everybody else need to actually think about here. It's, unless you get someone to sign, there's a thing, when you're an actor, when you're a voiceover artist, when you put yourself towards something, if I use my voice towards a character, I have to sign the rights to my voice away. So I'm giving them permission for a one-time fee to use my voice or for royalties. If I don't sign a contract for that, doesn't mean that they can use my voice. No. Simple as it, you know? You have to make sure you get these people in a binding agreement before you do stuff like this. If you don't, then it causes problems. Now, I know there was an intention by Hygic Studios to redub these games anyway. They didn't want to use the original voice cast. Everything that went on in regards to this situation went on because people were careless and didn't know what they wanted to do with this. Now, any other thoughts on Silent Hill HD Collection before we move on quickly?
Garbage.
Exactly. Book of Memories. Now, this was this is the first time they did a project that looked like something that could have stood out, but due to time constraints, they kind of stepped up a little bit. They stepped up and kind of spent the year, spelled the end of the Silent Hill franchise in a sense. This is an action/video game developed by WayForward Technologies and published by Konami Digital Entertainment for PlayStation Vita, and was the 9th installment of the Silent Hill franchise and the first in the series featuring role-playing elements and cooperative gameplay. Now, the gameplay Book of Memories largely focuses on connectivity and action for up to 4 players viewed from overhead perspective. From the start of the game, the player is given a template for their own player character, which they can customize to a limited degree. The player template is very considerable, including both males and females from multiple ethnicities, and they're creating a player character that they can explore large areas while fighting enemies, collecting experience points, and looking for various items and melee weapons and health packs. And players can equip artifacts to boost certain attributes for goals in each maps and zones, or etc. And it features an alignment system called a karma system. Each enemy belongs to one of the 2 elements, blood and light. Collecting the blood pool after defeating the enemy will shift the player's alignment slightly according to the enemy's element. Each alignment features the ability to give a successful power and karma rank. There was not really a story to this. So, let's start in regards to perceptions of this. Miguel, have you heard of this?
I didn't even know this game exists, and I'm perfectly fine still pretending that this game doesn't exist.
Xander?
Nothing about this game sounds like a Silent Hill game. I'm sure it's a great game, but it's not a Silent Hill game.
Well, it got 61%.
Okay, I'm sure it's a mediocre game.
Yeah, 58 out of 100, so it's probably very mediocre. Xander, what about you?
Actually, I have no memory about this game.
Oh, God, that was so sad. That was so sad. Zach, what about you?
You know, I don't have a Vita. I've never played it, but I'm looking at the cover art, and I think it's fucking badass. There's like a book that's bleeding, even though the blood is like black. I guess that might be from like a cyborg from Mortal Kombat or some kind of shit. But and I have arms sticking through, but it looks sweet. You know how like when you beat like smoke, like the robotic smoke, that's like oil comes out. Well, this kind of looks like that. I think it looks awesome. Like the cover. I don't have a Vita, so. And plus, Way Forward made it. Way Forward makes some good shit. They developed it. I don't know.
I think at the
Was
moment,
it that bad?
I haven't actually played it myself, but from the way that the game's being perceived, I think people were just soured on the whole Silent Hill franchise when it got onto it. And plus, changing the style of the game to RPGs doesn't really make it a survival horror game. It just turns into a RPG game. So
Very true. There's a water dungeon in this.
yeah, it kind of, to me, it just doesn't sound like the type of game that
was
would be
supposed to be
synonymous. I get what you were doing there. Very
Okay. All right.
very Zelda-esque.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the same.
Okay. That's what I was going for. Yeah. I didn't know this was an RPG. Actually, I might get. Does this game suck? It's 61. That's not that bad.
Well, it's got half, but
It's a
again,
B-.
it's not.
I mean, I played Quap. Let's be real here.
For me,
Has anyone else played Quap?
I haven't been Quap. Is he good?
No, it's
Sounds like quap.
Look at your keyboard right now. Look at your keyboard right now, and it uses the QW and the OP like Quap, and you have to make a guy run like fucking 100 meters, and he moves his entire body with these 4 keys. Anyway, whatever. Whatever.
All I'm saying
Maybe
is, if you had a toilet and you wanted to sodomize shit, that's what you'd be doing, fucking that shit. That's
Fucking that shit. Maybe I'll try it one day.
Well, if you do, I think you'd have to wash your dick, because I don't think Kyla would let you go near her.
Are you guys talking about like Quap, like it's supposed to be like FAP? Is this what am I missing here?
No, quap is in crap. Get it? No.
Oh, okay.
Bad joke.
I'm lost. Yeah.
So, Nick, did you read up on this one?
Yeah, I read up on it. I read PDs, but I want to touch this thing with the 10-foot pole.
I'm probably going to end up watching like a playthrough on this game because I want to see how bad it is. But again, it just you lose at the term of Silent Hill and RPG. Those two things don't go together. So let's go on to that after that now, guys, and let's move on to the movie franchise. Miguel, take it away.
I'm conflicted with Silent Hill 1. From a production standpoint, I put it actually up there with some of the better video game-based adaptations. I think it looks great. I think it's directed well. I really do think that the director, Christoph Gans, really put a lot of effort into recreating the look of Silent Hill. I like the transition effect between the light world and the dark world. There's a lot to like about this movie visually. My biggest gripe with it is that they changed too much from the original storyline. They made the
why he made hair smell. Do you know the reason why behind that? Christoph
I have no idea.
It's quote saying, "I want to fuck American bitches, so fuck it. Let's make an all-American woman movie."
Yeah.
Good. Well, it ruins a lot of the dynamics of the game.
Yeah, go on, Xander.
I heard something different. Like, of course, this he wouldn't have probably said that anyway on a DVD special features, but on the DVD special features, he was mentioning that he changed it to a female because he said that he thought that Harry's character was very like nurturing and it fit more of a female. The more that they studied on the game that it was more of a female type of character than a male character.
That's exactly what he said on the DVD. He was actually quoted in print saying, I'm trying to find the source on this, because Twin Perfect talked about this a little bit as well, that he wanted to fuck American bitches. That was the reason behind it, because he came up with that lame excuse of, everything that he went through sounds like a woman. so he decided to go with the whole woman thing. And what happened, Konami went back to him and said, we want a man in this. We want someone that we need a male character in this, otherwise it doesn't work. So he basically created a character that's based on himself called Christopher.
Is that the Sean Bean character?
Yeah. Who everyone mistakes for Harry Mason.
Yeah,
Okay,
not
yeah.
simply that guy.
Okay,
But they
yeah.
created that. They not only created that character, they created a whole third world in the game, and that's another thing that angered me. Was you have the outlaying world that the main female character's in, you have the underworld, the very rusted looking world, and then you have this third world that Sean Bean's character walks through that is supposed to be the really real world. And it completely ruins the whole feel of the game, because then you're like, all right, let me get this straight. So the world that the main female character is in is not the real world, and there's actually a realer world over that, and then there's the underworld over it. Like, it made no sense. Even when I was watching it, I was like, nothing about this makes any sense. Like, you could have literally cut out all of Sean Bean's scenes in there for the most part, and it would have actually helped the story out better. And honestly, changing the male... yeah?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can continue.
I was going to say, the one thing that also bugged me was because they changed the male character to female, they also had to change the emotional dynamic of Sybil Bennett, the female cop that pops up, because in the game there's a very loving, there's not so much a loving but a caring dynamic between Harry Mason and Sybil. Like, you get the sense that they might hook up at the end, but if they don't, it's okay. Whereas because now you have another female character in there, they completely made Sybil an unlikable character. She's completely mean. She doesn't get along with the main female character. And it really is, it's unnecessary. And this entire movie could have been fixed if they hadn't have decided to make the male character female. It completely ruins what, like I said, what is technically, on a technical aspect, a very well-made game. I mean, a very well-made movie. I think had they not screwed that up, this movie would have probably been heralded as one of the best video game-based adaptations of all time. Otherwise, it ruined it, and it's a really hard movie for me to watch because I could see the good spots, but I also see a lot of the bad. And to me, the bad outweighs the good.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
The thing that I was going to say was, it seems like the fact that they wanted to change the main character from a male to female, they had to spend so much more time and money writing the whole fucking movie again when they could have just had something that was already done. It's like, why spend all that time and money for something that no one gives a shit about? It's like, yes, it's a different thing, and I can understand. I personally understand why they might have made it a woman, maybe because, in a game it's one thing, but in a movie you can kind of make it seem like, because when I look at my mother versus my father, I feel like this isn't really, I have no fact on this, but I just feel like my mother kind of loves me more than my dad. I just feel like, the person who kind of carries you is the one who's, is kind of the one who has the more, feelings for you, just by nature. So I can understand why they might have made it a woman, so they could make it feel more like, she's my baby, I actually birthed her, But at the same point, it's like, why have to do fucking 500 more fucking things because you want the main character to be female when you have a perfectly fine thing and all this other stuff already done when he's male?
Totally agree.
And that's a cop out, by the way, when they said that a lot of his feelings could only be done by a female, because they establish in the game that Harry Mason's a single dad. He's taking care of his daughter by himself. I don't think they mention a wife in the game, and that
his wife died, basically.
I understand that, but I'm saying whether the wife is dead or not, there's a difference in the love from a mother and a father to their child. A father, I don't think, can love a child as much as a mother can. I don't think it's possible, in my opinion. It just doesn't make sense how it's possible. There was a Futurama where Bender carried a bunch of beer in his stomach for 9 months, and then when he birthed it out, he loved the alcohol that came out of him. And I feel like that is the real life, even though it's a cartoon.
Yeah, I remember that episode. It's like, What are you gonna name it? Well, if it's an ale, I'm gonna name it Bender Brew, and Budweiser if it's a lager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Silent Hill, that really was just...
It's silly, really, because he had this... It was kind of... I can understand why he wanted an all-female movie, but when he originally pitched the project to Konami, he put together like various different Silent Hill cutscenes and stuff to try to show that he understood the franchise. And he did. He had knowledge about the franchise. He knew exactly what he wanted to do out of the franchise and how things were going to be done. And instead just royally fucked it up because he just got a bit too ambitious with it and arrogant with it. And then ended up releasing the piece of shit Silent Hill Revelations 3D, which we'll go into that a bit more. So, what about you, Xander? What was your experience with the movie?
I liked it.
Zack
was it the best, like, movie ever? It was. I mean, it had its flaws, and yeah, but I'm looking at it as, like, a movie compared to a video game, and I'm like, damn, this is so much better than the Resident Evil movies. Or anything Yul Boll did, you know? So, I mean,
that's
looking
exactly
at it as
what
just
I was
a
gonna
movie,
say.
Yeah,
you know, looking at it as like a movie, it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, like I said before, from a technical aspect, it's not a bad movie. Like, I know people that really like Silent Hill, and I can't really disagree with them as a movie guy because I could see how as a movie it works, and it's not a bad movie. It's just not it's just too much of the source material was changed for me as a fan for me to like it. You know, if you don't have much of it.
It shouldn't have been a Silent Hill movie. It's the same thing with the games. It's like, you can't put Silent Hill on it if you take away one of the vital characters and then change it from being about trying to raise a demon to a witch's coven.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Yeah, they changed the actual heart of the story.
Yeah. And that's...
Oh, and they slotted Pyramid Head in there too. Which was unnecessary. I mean, it doesn't fit in with the first game's story. You know, it's kind of the bad thing about Pyramid Head is he's become kind of almost a Jason Voorhees in a way, where he's become a figure, a symbol of that series, when really he only works in Silent Hill 2 and nothing else. And they keep shoving him into 100%. All these other games.
It's like next time you're gonna have Pyramid Head like do a comedy, you know. Pyramid Head all the way or something like that.
Yeah, they're gonna put him in like a golf game or some shit.
Yeah, he ends up being Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Wasn't he in
PlayStation All-Stars?
I was gonna say, wasn't he in no? For some reason, I'm thinking he was in Hot Shots Golf for some reason.
Oh my God, please!
Well, Kratos was, but that's what I was saying. Like, next thing you know, Pyramid Head's gonna be there. Or maybe, yeah, I don't know. Kratos is in one of them. I don't remember.
It was in High Shots Golf. It makes no sense. It's like, with a character, you have to justify it. And if you can't justify the reason or use for a character, it just destroys any ability that character has to portray themselves effectively. And that's exactly what they did in the Silent Hill movie. Again, I haven't had an issue with it. I liked Sean Bean. I kept calling him Harry Mason. But just because I kept calling him Harry Mason doesn't mean he was. And it kind of made me sad. So, any more thoughts about the movie?
I do have to mention the movie.
I will say that.
Okay, one at a time. So we go to Xander first.
No, I'm going to go ahead and let Nick, because he's been needing to say something.
Thank you, sir. What I was actually going to say was when you guys were arguing the point about having a female character in the movie versus a male character in the game, if you think about it, and I hate to say this, but video games are mainly male-driven, so it makes more sense in a roundabout way to have a guy being the main character, especially in a horror survival game. And second of all, if you read a lot about the movies, you notice that they bring elements of 1, 2, and 3 all into it. So yeah, they're going to bring Pyramid Head into it because he's actually this big bad guy. And more to the point, he kind of acts like an enforcer almost. of the town and the rules. Also, in terms of the nurses and the female characters, if you go back to the video games and you read what each nurse represents, sexual frustration, not only that, but also being institutionalized in a mental hospital or any hospital, that's where they're going to come from. So you combine that with the lead female character to draw in possibly a female audience to the movie. Yeah, you're going to have a recipe for something that you're going to try to cross into everybody's viewpoint.
I know I'm going to sound sexist here, but would you really expect a full female audience to basically watch a survival horror with a woman in it? Because mostly survival horrors have been known as not a strong female character. They've been known to have a woman with boobs running about.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have the nurses in there.
Yeah, it's not one of those things that you'd expect a female audience to be driven to in the first place. So by doing that, he kind of it seemed to me like he did something because he wanted it, rather than doing it specifically for the audience sake. Otherwise, they would have had a large. You know, if they got Anita Sarkeesian to promote it and loads of feminists running to see it, saying, "Oh, that's a strong, powerful woman," I think they probably would have sold it. But it didn't. It didn't sell on that merit because no one was interested, which was the problem. But let's go on to back to Xander,
Travis,
basically.
Travis?
I want to go back to Xander, then
say?
Zach, and then I'll get Travis to have his say. I'm just basically because everyone spoke at the same time. So Xander, what about what was you going to say?
Well, I was going to mention, because I was getting Pyramid Head mixed up with Hot Shots Golf, because I knew he was in some weird cutesy video game. It was from 2008 on the DS, the new International Track and Field, an installment of Track and Field series. There was a Crazy Kart Racers that he was in. He was in a kart racing game.
Oh my god!
As well as Robbie the Rabbit from Silent Hill 3.
I have no words.
Rabbit.
A fucking rabbit.
I'm guessing it was developed like
sterile
Konami.
now.
Yeah, I am too. I feel like that sounds like something that you would take a shit and just crap out of your pants. There were no words. So, Zach, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the first Silent Hill movie, and I say that because I know we're getting to the second one. I haven't actually seen it, but the first one I enjoyed, but I've seen all the Resident Evil movies now, and they have gotten fucking horrible. I mean, shit. The newest fucking Resident Evil movie is just to quote the fucking angry video game nerd, it's ass. It is horrible.
Yeah, it's because it's usually the same old storyline. It's Miljosevic wakes up naked, Miljosevic finds clothes, Miljosevic battles zombies and demons and what, in it. Miljosevic has to face some great big angry monster thingy. Miljosevic ends up getting to the point where there's a cliffhanger at the end, and then we have to wait for the next movie.
Yep, that sounds right to me.
Yeah, I've never seen a vanity project be as successful as the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah,
those are basically just their wife vanity projects. They are there so Paul W.S. Anderson can fap it to his wife.
Yeah. Oh, honey,
Fap.
can you wear that outfit in Resident Evil again, please? Because just wear it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
it's fine. Can you put a pyramid head on?
Wear that. Yeah, you got to wear that gown that we gave you at the end of Resident Evil 1.
Honey, can you
put that pyramid head on?
Can you just say stars? Stars. Paul W.S. Anderson. I'm probably never ever going to work with him. Right. So let's go on now to Travis. What was your opinions of the film?
I haven't seen any of them.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. Silent Hill Revelations in 3D. Just because the first one wasn't great enough, they decided to do it in 3D. Miguel, take it away.
This movie is sitting at a 5 out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Just put that into perspective, because even bad movies usually are able to sit at somewhere around between 15 and 10%. To reach a 5, you really got to try hard to make a bad movie. And
Can I ask, what does the room have?
The room? Let me type it in. Let me see where that's sitting at. The Room is sitting at a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, so think about this. Room's got less than The Room. Let's go to the one of the worst movies of all time, Leprechaun.
The first one, really?
No, Leprechaun. It's Leprechaun 2, wasn't it? With that kid with the bad acting. They're in there alive. No, not gonna be.
Oh, that was
Troll 2. That was it. Troll 2. I apologise. I should get my bad
That's sitting at
right.
a 6.
Right. This has got 1 less than Troll 2. Take it away, Miguel.
Yeah, I mean, you really got basically every consensus that I've heard about this movie is it's a direct-to-video. It's a direct-to-video sequel to Silent Hill that for some reason got into the theaters, and I'm willing to bet it was because of the 3D. That's it. Because from what I've heard, they actually do stuff with the 3D. It's terrible, and it's really bad post-conversion, like Last Airbender era 3D. But they do 3D stuff, so I'm guessing that's the gimmick that got them a theatrical release. Other than that, this movie has Sci-Fi Channel Pictures original written all over it. Bad special effects, bad acting, bad writing, just bad all over.
And Christoph
But they
Gans
did get Sean Bean back, so it's something.
Christoph Gans was basically directing this, wasn't he?
No, this was directed by a man by the name of Michael J. Bassett, who this was his first movie, actually. This was his first directorial. He also wrote the movie.
Oh, God.
And I think he's directed and wrote 3 other movies. None of them I've ever heard of.
They should have got me to direct the movie. At least it made fucking sense.
So yeah, this could have easily been a Sci-Fi Pictures movie. Yeah, this could have easily been a Sci-Fi Pictures movie, and no one would have known the difference.
Xander would, because Xander knows the difference to everything. All right, so Zach, have you watched this?
I haven't. I might actually. Is this on Netflix?
I believe so.
I believe so, yeah.
All right, actually, I think as soon as we're done here, I think I'm actually going to put it on. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I don't know.
Be like, Kyla, get your pyramid head. Watching Silent Hill.
Yeah, get that pyramid head on.
I never told you to take it off.
Yeah, she's she's got out of work, so
So let's go to
get that pyramid head on.
Let's go to Xander. Xander, have you watched this?
I watched 15 minutes of it, and
I just like the.
No, I wanted to finish it.
Of it, and I was like, yeah.
I wanted to finish it, but I ate a really big lunch, and I was watching, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I'm like, oh shit, I missed it, and I just never watched it.
That shows how interesting it is. His lunch beat him. It's just like, yeah, I fell asleep. Yeah.
That's happened to everyone before. Let's be real here.
Now, if a film's good, I will literally watch it again if I fall asleep through it. If I fall asleep through a bad movie, I'll just be like, fuck this shit.
I think that was a defense mechanism that his brain had, actually.
It had nothing to do with the food. The movie just sucked so bad.
Your brain was just like, I'm shutting down. Yeah.
It's like, peace, bitches, I'm out.
You just hit the kill switch. It's like, if you try and put this on again, I'm gonna kill you dead. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not watching this. Oh, brain, no.
No.
Bad, Xander. Bad. Don't watch shit. So, Miguel, what was so bad about it? Go through the premise of this movie. And try not to spoil it too much.
It basically was...
okay, I spoil all of it, so we have no questions.
No. I can sum this up simply. Basically, they tried to remake Silent Hill 3. It plays a lot like the events of Silent Hill 3, and I can't really go too far into it because I never played Silent Hill 3 that much, so I don't know what the core story is. But from what I've heard, this was basically them trying to remake Silent Hill 3, even though they shoved Pyramid Head into this again, and he ends up being Alessa's savior, and it just like I said,
Whoa.
He's
desire.
who saver? How can Pyramid Head save anyone?
He's actually the good guy. He's actually
what?
the good guy, apparently. Like, he tries to actually save Alessa.
What?
Yeah.
Is it the same girl from the first one?
You sure this dude didn't want to fuck Pyramid Head? Because it just sounds like he had some fantasies about Pyramid Head himself.
No, they made him the good guy.
Pyramid Head does not need to be male or female. Yes, it's male, obviously in Silent Hill 2, but it can be female also. Don't be sexist.
I'm not being sexist. When I think of Pyramid Head, I think of a muscly dude with a pyramid head. I don't think of boobs with a pyramid head.
You know what? Some people think of a girl with a nice pair of tits and nice legs with a pyramid head.
Why do I've got a funny feeling that you basically tell yourself that every night? You've had some weird sex fantasy about you a pyramid head.
I tell you guys that it's just me. I just feel like, oh, my friend has a heroin problem. But I mean, it's me. I'm like, oh, my friend says pyramid head is so hot or so sexy with female legs.
Yeah.
No, really though, Tom wants sexy.
I fucked this
Okay,
chick
I'll tell you
once,
this.
and the chick had a dick, but no, that was my friend, I swear. And he had a pyramid
my
head.
buddy. Yeah, it was my buddy.
Oh god. Yeah, go on, Travis.
I don't know, but Miguel's sharing these pictures here, and yeah, I think I'd do Pyramid Head if she was a woman.
Oh yeah, wait,
I would.
let me get in. Yeah, hell yeah, why not?
Okay, I'm gonna check.
Especially when it's got blood all over. Yeah, I did that.
Okay, Travis, that's kind of making things a bit disturbing there. That's like,
Hey, dude, we've gone on. This has gone on for 3 hours, man. Tiredness is sleeping. Is getting in. See, I can't even talk now because I'm getting so.
This brings a whole new meaning to the word. You know, like
Fat?
fucking. Yeah, well, more than that. I couldn't. I don't know. That's me. I would probably draw the line with a female link. But this is making me very sexually confused. Anyway, so basically they've turned Pyramid Head into a good guy, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever, and they ruined. It sounds like they've ruined the entire what the groundwork that they laid on the initial movie. They ruined that even further with this one. So what were you? Just sum up your experiences on here, Miguel. Did you feel like you wanted to throw up or have chronic diarrhea or like shoot yourself?
Honestly, I'm only going by the reviews I've read. I honestly have never seen this movie. I'm actually trying to avoid it. Given what I've heard and the fact that it's sitting at a 5 right now, means I really have no. I mean, maybe I'll watch it for bad movie purposes, but given how much of a fan of the series I am, I might actually get angry at the movie, and I don't want that. I don't like being angry at movies.
How do you give yourself chronic diarrhea?
Easy.
Well, if you
just watch Silent Hill Revelations.
Yeah.
You just watch it, and then suddenly your bowels just evacuate themselves.
Oh, okay.
Chronically. Oh Lord. It's like the Nostalgia Critic when he. What was it? The film that he watched? Oh yeah, that was it. Junior. He watched Junior and he ended up like chronically throwing up. And the doctor's like,
that
he's severely dehydrated. But yeah.
Yeah. When he said with Danny DeVito? Or no, what was that one?
Yeah. Mother!
That was the second one with Danny DeVito. That was the one that they thought they could advertise as like Twins 2 or something.
Yeah, it just didn't.
Oh, yeah, that's one I've seen. Yeah.
Apparently they're working on Twins 2. Anyway, but so we've gone through these two movies. Sums up. Now let's quickly sum up our reasons for why we feel that the franchise has gone downhill. So we'll start with you, Xander. Why do you think the franchise just took a downward spiral?
I think Miguel, he made a great point about the difference between American and Japanese horror, and it's just lost its pizzazz. It's lost its formula that it had. I mean, it was, that's what I was looking for. It was very creepy and subtle, and it did certain things to your psyche in the first, 2 games. But then as it progressed, it was more like, the popularity of like, dude, this game's really, really fucked up. That it was just like, it's like it's like someone heard that and they're like, oh, seems like fucked up games seem to be selling well. Let's make this one even more fucked up. And it just lost the point. So
Zach, what about you?
I think the idea of just handing off to a different developer in general is what kills a lot of things. I mean, I think the person who originally, envisions this is the person who should do it, in my opinion, to the end. You look at people who did what the fuck am I talking about?
Metal Gear?
I don't even know. Holy shit! Yes, Metal Gear is exactly what I was thinking. So you look at Kojima, who's done it, and he have you ever heard about the way he tests games? Like he will literally when they were making I think Metal Gear Solid 4 or whatever, and it was one of them, and he would go play it, and then he would come back to the people programming it and be like, no, you need to make sure that when I walk on this building and there's snow, when I walk towards the edge, the snow falls off on this angle. And that's just the idea of loving it and being, the creator of it. And when you're handing it off to those people, they don't give a shit. You really think these people who made Homecoming gave a fuck about the people who did, who had the envision from the first one?
No, I don't think they did. That's the problem. They've handed it over to fanboys in a sense. People who write, and as Miguel so aptly put it, they write Silent Hill fan fiction.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying yeah, no, I don't know. I'm just saying fan fiction's a different thing, in my opinion. Fan fiction is people who love it and the same type of, idea as the person who created it. I mean, there's Seinfeld fan fiction. I mean, there's fan fiction for everything. There's probably fan fiction for, what was that show that got canceled on Fox there? Firefly. What's the show that got canceled on Fox? 1,000 of them. But,
that's every show that ever comes on Fox.
Yeah, no, I just feel no, that's a different thing, but, no, I don't know. It's just the idea that, once in it for someone who didn't create it, and this is not to include, I guess, fan fiction, because I think the people who are the fans, I feel like they would put as much care and love into it as the people who made it. It's just when you hand it off to these other assholes who just don't give a shit anymore, this is like a paycheck, You really think Metal Gear Solid to Kojima is a paycheck? Not in no way, He's not gonna put out shit just to get money, So I don't know. It's just that probably is, in my opinion, where I went downhill, just handing it to someone who pretty much doesn't give a fuck, who's just oh, I see this as a paycheck. Probably is what it was, and you could tell because it's so different, and that's really, I guess, in my opinion, where it went downhill.
I agree. Travis, what about you?
Honestly, it's like this. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. After Silent Hill 4, The Room, it just started turning to shit since then, so there we go.
Very true. Okay, Nick?
I really think that, if you do the reading on Team Silent, what you see is that Silent Hill 3 was actually technically supposed to be their last game to be made, and when you switch to other companies that have not had the creativity like these guys had in creating this world, you do lose it. But not only that, but you also lose focus of what's really important, and I don't think I've heard everybody talk about it. That's really the talent itself, because there's still a lot of stuff that is unanswered about it. Why is it there? What happened to make it the way that it is? And I think that's just really what killed it overall.
Very true. And finally, Miguel, go for it. Go on your tirade.
I think it's obvious that the series lost its luster when it transferred over to an American audience. I think that's you can't really argue about that. I think what bugs me the most is that they let the series continue on so long that I honestly don't think there's any way you can pull the series back. I mean, you look at the transformation from the original game to this latest one on the Vita, and it doesn't even resemble itself in the slightest. It's just the series has gotten worse and worse and worse. And even when they tried to go back and recapture its glory with Shattered Memories, they just made it worse. You've got the movies, which are supposed to be good, and it just got worse. Every aspect of the series has just gotten worse and worse, to the point to where even if they announced that they were rebooting the series proper and they were going to bring it back for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and Konami was going to give it to one of their higher up developers. I believe they've even been talking about possibly having Kojima oversee a Silent Hill game, because he said he's a fan of the series and he'd love to work with it. And they even thought about bringing back the monster designer, the main designer from the first games, bring him back and work with Kojima to make a new one. Even with that, I don't see this franchise ever coming back. I think Silent Hill is done. It's one of those franchises that was just bled to death. And honestly, if on the off chance they ever did decide to bring it back, it's going to be a long time before people forget about those bad Silent Hill games. I don't think you can capitalize on this franchise name. I think you just got to let it go.
And
I really
go on, Xander.
Well, I was about to say, I think if they were going to bring back Silent Hill, I think it should be silent for a couple of years, and maybe a possible reboot.
If they do a reboot, they might as well just get Team Ninja to start doing it, because apparently they're good at doing reboots. If you played the Devil May Cry reboot.
Honestly, if you're going to go with reboots, there was a time where Silicon Knights was actually tied to a Silent Hill game. If there's any American company that could do a reboot right, given their success with the Twin Snakes game, I would go with them, in all honesty. If Konami can strike a deal with Silicon Knights to work on a Silent Hill game, I would actually be up for that. I mean, like I said, I'd be a little bit tepid, but with Silicon Knights behind it, I think they could do the game justice.
For me, I think the end result for this was Konami getting greedy. They saw a good thing with Silent Hill and then just kept pimping it and pimping it and pimping it until that whore was on life support because she had AIDS. It was
God, Jesus Christ.
It was that bad from the situation. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't use protection. They just kept pushing the franchise down people's throats, to the point where fans got angry about it, to the point where they were literally like going to the company, tweeting the company, swearing at the company, getting angry because things weren't done properly, and then giving it in the hands of angry and aggressive developers who had no fucking idea what they were doing and getting arrogant about the product and like, we can make a better game than Team Silent. They shouldn't have looked at it that way. They should have looked at it as, why don't we do something different? And then by the time it kept morphing and morphing until the end, it didn't look like a Silent Hill game anymore. And that's pretty much it, and that's probably the end results of this. In terms of what Silent Hill was, you have some amazing games with Silent Hill 1, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, and to a lesser extent, if you want to see a different Silent Hill game but with the same premise, The Room would be a good option to play. After that, though, it just got ridiculous because everything became a Silent Hill 2 rehash. And that's not exactly what you really want out of a game. Now, to finish up, I just want to quickly highlight a couple of things. One, if you haven't donated as of yet, please donate. I Got Gameplay, even though we're not a part of the same network anymore, we're still a part of Fanboys Anonymous, and we're not doing it basically because of that. We're doing it because it's a children's hospital. This means that, kids will get the treatment that they need. It's a good cause. Chris states his heart is in the right place. If you donate $10 each, he just wants to reach a goal of $1,000. If he can apex that goal and eclipse that goal, that would be amazing, guys. So if you're listening to this and you've got a little bit of money to spare, please donate, give generously, because it's a great cause. And I'll be there for the 12th of February when we will actually be playing a game off we're going to be playing a 24-hour marathon of games. So make sure that you actually watch it. It's going to be streaming live exclusively on Fanboys Anonymous and also on Chris Stace's channel, I believe. And if you love the content, what's going on, you love I Got Gameplay and want to hear more about gaming, there's a show on every Monday by John Latimer called Desert Island Games. And his guest this Monday is Chris Ashankt. Now, the whole premise of it is pretty easy. He asks his guests 5 things that they would like to take on an island with them. Zach was on it and he enjoyed himself tremendously. So make sure you check it out, guys. And last but not least, let's go over to our hosts for the plug. So we'll start with you, Nick. What are you currently doing at the moment?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
What are you currently doing at the moment, mate?
Currently I'm actually going to be working on some videos for my channel on YouTube, Nick T. Wolf, and going to be doing some reviews and some gameplay here within the next week.
Awesome. Zach?
Yeah, you guys can catch me and Kyla. Yeah, she wasn't here tonight, but she's here in spirit. You can catch us on youtube.com / or / whichever one it is, Getting Your Nerd On. We have a review or Modest Magic or some segment on Monday. Then on Wednesday we're going to have a Let's Play, and on a Friday we're going to have a pickup, as always, with a sketch or a skit, a comedy skit. You can catch the band I'm in at killtech9.bandcamp.com. That's KILLTAC 9.bandcamp.com. And yeah, just join us and laugh and love video games as much as we do.
I love Getting Your Nerd On. These guys have some hilarious skits. So make sure that you guys check that out. And Xander?
Well, I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com / Xander Skullion. And I also host a podcast, XS Gaming Podcast, and the next episode is going to be a week from now. And Michael Burhan's going to be joining me as one of the guests, but I also have another very special guest. I want to have Jason Heine from the All Gen Gamers and YouTube channel, the EMU Review. I want to have him on the show, and we're going to be talking about racing games.
And you guys can check that out on our Blog Talk Radio channel, of course, with the Retro Unlim Network, which Xander is a part of. So you can check that out. We'll make sure we upload the episode same day when Xander rolls it out to his many platforms, of course, including Podomatic, iTunes, and also he now has the shows on YouTube. youtube.com / Xander Skullion. Travis?
Yes, you can find me on youtube.com / Rosecard Reviews, the show where I take a look at classic video games, television shows, and movies. And through Rosecard lenses, I see they still stand the test of time. And also got youtube.com / Rosecard Let's Play. That is my retro gaming Let's Play channel. Both of them are in conjunction with retrounlim.com as well as fanboysanonymous.com. Videos that also can be found on dailymotion.com / Rosecard Reviews. And a special thing I like to announce on this show, I'm currently working on my twitch.tv account so I can live stream retro video games.
I thought you said that you actually fancied Pyramid Head. That's what I was thinking. It was like, yeah, just want to announce this channel. I'm gay for Pyramid Head.
Hey, it doesn't have to be gay. It does not have to be gay.
That's going to be my running gag.
Actually, those pictures, I think Miguel said, whoever sent those pictures out, she looked good.
I love that Zach's getting very...
That was me.
Zach's getting angry. He's going to be like... He's going to probably have an angry...
No.
He's going to have an angry masturbation session. He'll be like, damn, Burhan. Freaking telling me Pyramid Head's a man. Ugh. I'm only pulling your leg. I'm yanking your chain.
It can be a female.
You can check out Travis Goss, of course, on Rose Colour Reviews and Rose Colour Let's Plays. And he's doing a special cameo for a new show that me and Xander Skullion are working on. More for that on a coming episode. You'll have to wait and see on that. It's going to be a great project, and I can't wait to get started on it. Also, the return of Movie File, which is coming, where I'm going to have a special guest on the episode with 90s kid Miguel Leon. Miguel, what do you have going on?
I've got my Fanboys Anonymous blog on 90s Kid Presents, which I'm just about to finish up my top 16 games of the late 90s list. Hopefully I'll get that up soon enough, and then, who knows from then on in. Because I also have another big thing to work on now, and that is my show on Retro Unlimited, the Untitled Movie Show, Thursday nights at 8. Last week we did a retrospective on not a retrospective, but we had a discussion about the Man of Steel movie, and this coming week's topic is going to be when good directors go bad. We're going to talk about directors that have passed their primes, directors that are still in their prime, and directors that never had a prime. So check that out Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, the Untitled Movie Show on RetroUnlimited.com. Not Retro Unlimited, on BlogTalkRadio.com.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking a lot about you, Bold, then.
We might.
So yeah, make sure you guys check that out as well. And also, we've got something else going on as well. Otaku Nation will be re-debuting this Wednesday with a whole new set of hosts. You can check out for Tuesdays, XFI, Wednesdays, what have we got Wednesdays? Wednesdays, yes, Otaku Nation. I did say that. Thursdays, Miguel with the Untitled Movie Show. Fridays, XFI. Saturday, I got gameplay, and we've got Sundays currently free, but we'll also be uploading the archives, old episodes of RU Radio, which is Harry Yak and special guests, as they basically talk about loads of things gaming as well at the same time. We also have unlive episodes as well of Excess Gaming Podcast, archive episodes of Retro Junkies, and also a new show that's debuting as well called Turtle Flakes. So make sure you check out all this content and more on the Retro Island Network. We're opening up a YouTube channel, Retro Island Network YouTube, of course, where we're going to be posting archives of all our episodes on there as well. And we basically have a presence on iTunes, Stitcher, and also Blog Talk Radio. So guys, make sure you check out all that. And remember, for Michael Burhan, Nick Enderley, Kyla Dipietro, Zack Latour, Miguel Leon.
I'm related to Brandon.
Yeah, apparently. Miguel Leon, Xander Skullion, Travis Goss, and always for Retro Unlimited FanboysAnonymous.com, I'm Michael Burhan, just letting you guys know that we've got gameplay. Have you?